Black Americans, Black immigrants, we're one people. We have, yes, different struggles from different sides of the world, but all together we are united. So, I hope that this discussion really helps to kind of end that. And in some way, maybe in our lifetime, like we were able to see and experience a Black president like Barack Obama and the contributions for so many other Black Americans that we know about, so many Black immigrants who've made contributions. There is enough to go around everywhere for us to be together, and nothing ever takes away from the idea that the Black Americans who built the foundation and this horrible history in America, that nothing takes away the Black foundation that built this country.
No doubt.
And so this conversation is to be additive. It's to be able to highlight that we are diverse in the way we are, in the way we think, in the way we are. The Black card, gone away. This idea that there is only a monolith of being Black should be gone away, because we're so many. Just like we vary in height, in ideas, in skin complexion, we're so many. So we should embrace all of that.
154, we all connected, baby, you already know. I'm talking 154, we bringing Africa around the whole globe. Ain't no place like home. Ain't no place like home. Ain't no place like.
Welcome to 154. All right, so some of you guys might have seen the viral moment that went on National Black Guide, where there was a clip of Godfrey and I having a conversation, and we were talking about Black Americans and Black African immigrants. And this thing sparked something out of our control. Now, I want to remind everybody that this was a clipped conversation of a larger discussion that Godfrey and I were having, where we were in sync the entire time. But of course, the internet is going to do what the internet does, right? Take a portion of it and then just spin it into something else. And I think what we learned from this situation, especially something that got spun during Black History Month, is it a conspiracy? Maybe. Is that there's a larger discussion that needs to be had about this. And so to all the trolls out there, to all the people out there,
bots,
the bots, of course, we saw a lot of the bots. I said, you know what? It's time for us to have a conversation, a deeper conversation about this. And so with Godfrey and I, we have Dr. Donald Grant here. Doctor, you and I talked just for a little bit about this discussion. Just let everybody kind of know your background and kind of why it makes sense for us to have you here and being able to help facilitate this conversation.
Yeah, I appreciate being here today, gentlemen. I'm a psychologist by training, but I don't practice anymore. I work with large companies, helping leaders learn how to create environments where people do their best work. And what you're talking about right now is another area of expertise that I am in, which is racial cultural trauma. And when we're talking about the relationship amongst Black folk across the diaspora, we're talking about racial trauma. And everything that you all expressed. And so today I'd love to be able to dig into some of the stories behind why these conversations exist, why they're important, and why they're so hard to have.
Yeah, I think I'll start it off with this. So Godfrey and I, we were having this conversation about, whether or not there was a beef or what I called a misunderstanding in the Black community between Black immigrants and
foundational Black Americans.
But I'm not a big fan of that term.
It's divisive, but
we'll get into it. We're going to get into it.
Yeah.
But we were having this discussion, and so I'm like, all right, I'm here, and we're going, and we're agreeing back and forth, and I'm going, wait, but there's one side that needed to be represented and heard, and so Godfrey was giving obviously his side, and I'm like, yeah, I'm in agreement. This is everything that I grew up learning about from my teachers, from Mrs. Avion to Dr. Shepard, who was my elementary principal. So all of this stuff I was familiar to. So you were preaching essentially to the choir, and I'm going, amen, amen. All right, but what about this?
Yeah.
And so my interjection into the appreciation of Black immigrants, African immigrants, was really kind of from the standpoint of, as a young kid growing up in South Central Los Angeles in the Crenshaw district, I mean, ridiculously teased, but not only just myself, but I saw that happening to my brothers. I saw that happening to my father. I saw that happening to my mom. In fact, there was a point in the conversation where this is unscripted, where Godfrey and I were talking and we goes, but y'all Africans. And we kind of in sync and going like, wait, that came from somewhere.
Absolutely.
And that's the trauma that being a young African kid growing up, I couldn't hide from it, right? My name was Akbar Miller. The first thing you knew, everybody was going to go off on me, right?
Yeah.
So I lived with that. I saw how people disrespected my father. And I'm going, wait, you know, bringing it up triggered a lot of people. You can't, how dare you say appreciate, like, wait, my father contributed to it. And I get it that it was on the heels of the Immigrant National Act of 1965. I get that. But just because that was on the heels, does that mean my father's not to be appreciated in all the other immigrants?
No, I don't think it's, and
this is the backlash. This is the blowback. Yeah.
I know where you're going through.
Yeah, right.
Like, yeah. Because as much as I defend Black Americans, I get stuff where they'll go, you're not Black American, you African.
Right.
And I go, eat a dick? How about that? That's what I do. Because I'm like, what are you talking about? I grew up in Chicago.
Yeah.
That's a very Black city.
Mm-hmm.
Chicago's history of Black Americans is heavy. Jack and Jill, you got the Chicago Defender. A lot of stuff started in Chicago.
The Obamas.
You know, the Obamas, Minister Farrakhan, he's like Nation of Islam. There's so much just so much in Chicago. And my father was an educator for 45 years at Malcolm X College. You know what I mean?
That's pretty Black.
Yeah. Taught on the west side of Chicago.
Right.
Yeah. My father had adult education programs for gangster disciples, Blackstone Rangers, and vice lords. Gangbangers knew my dad. You don't get no, and you know, cats be like, yeah, your dad taught me how to read, dog, for real. We got your pops. I mean, and my mother was a nurse an OB-GYN nurse who delivered so many people's babies. My mother was known in Chicago. So our Blackness was mended with Black Americans. Most of my friends were Black Americans. And of course there were immigrants, because in the area I lived in Chicago was the most integrated area in Chicago, because Chicago's the most segregated city till this day. And Milwaukee is second, which is not that far from Chicago. Yeah. So I was in both worlds. Like you said, getting made fun of. They used to make fun of me all the time. And I remember this girl named Lois, and I will never forget her. I saw her not too long ago. I hadn't seen her in like 30 years. I remember I was mad about something. I was what 11, 12. And this girl Lois, she was heavyset at the time. And I remember she was treading water. We were at a swimming pool. And she goes, what's wrong, Godfrey? I said, yeah, they keep making fun of me being African. And she goes, and I will never forget, she goes, well, at least their ancestors weren't slaves. See, at least you have something to connect to. They don't. It's coming. And I go, wow, that's the truth. She goes, that's coming from trauma. That's coming from insecurity.
Yeah,
but you don't understand that as a 12-year-old. You're just like, they're just making fun of me.
Most 40-year-olds don't understand.
Right, no doubt.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was just going to add to that. This is like that trauma I get now as an adult. But I don't think a lot of, like Black Americans understand the trauma that also caused, because, if you're participating, and you saw it throughout movies, you saw it throughout music. I mean, all of it kind of crapped on the Black African immigrants who came in. And anyone who denies it or says, as I saw in some of the comments, get over it. That was then. Whoa. Now we say get over it. Yeah. Now we say get over it. There's a conversation there, right? I'll let you get in on that.
I mean, this is a part of the curriculum. I mean, we have to understand everything we're talking about is kind of grounded in this white superiority ideology.
No doubt.
And remember, we're not talking about white people as individuals. We're talking about the curriculum that's created. So when African immigrants are told about Black Americans, they're told never be like Black Americans.
That's right.
When Black Americans are told about African immigrants, they say, at least you're not from there. And so there's this original story, this narrative that when a Black American man meets a Black African immigrant, they're both dealing with colonial trauma, yet neither of them has been told the same or the correct story of one another. And so that is the initial beef. And the ultimate goal of it is to maintain separation between the entire diaspora. I mean, just think if we were able to get Accra, Lagos, Johannesburg, Atlanta, Oakland. I mean, in 1990, I'll never forget it. It was a few weeks before my 13th birthday. Public Enemy released Fear of a Black Planet.
Fear of a Black. We were in line for that.
Yeah.
So I remember getting the cassette tape. Yeah, me too. And so, again, talking about being hindsight in 2020, the things that we don't understand is that Public Enemy was talking about Black geopolitics 35 years ago.
Yep.
Fear of a Black Planet literally transcribed everything we're talking about right now. When you think of Terror Dome,
I got so much trouble on my mind.
Hollywood Burn,
Hollywood with Big Daddy Kane and Ice Cube.
Yep.
So this is not a new narrative. This is the same story that's been going on. And I think it's important to be able to see the source of the problem in order to actually articulate and speak about the problem. And so, you know, what you all had on camera was a kind of colloquial conversation that really turns into beef in the outside world, in the outside space, which is why it went viral, because people are yearning to have this conversation.
I like engagement.
But engagement,
I like it because I think I'm pretty well versed in this, because since I was 18, we started at the African American Cultural Center at University of Illinois. We had we got together and did a Black book reading club.
Yeah.
We brought in Stokely Carmichael. I met Francis Cress Welsing, Dr. Naeem Akbar, Breaking the Chains of Psychological Slavery from Florida State. He came. I met Eleanor Holmes Norton, who's still a senator.
Absolutely.
These people, I sat and talked with them. Sister Soldier.
Yeah.
So we brought them in on, you know, we put our money together and brought these speakers in. We had another brother named Ajwa Kwesi who taught us pre-slavery history, real African history. We had him 3 times. Steve Coakley from Chicago, another historian. So I was going to big time lectures, and then I was going to Savior's Day also.
Yeah.
So I had all of that. I have over 200 books, African American history.
Yeah.
You know, Nelson George.
Yeah.
One of his books is Boohoo's, Baps, and B-Boys.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've read that. So I was very well versed in James Baldwin.
Yep.
But you know what?
Malcolm X,
And our parents, because I think this is important, just like I'm sure your parents supported you understanding that being here in America. My parents did the same thing. Growing up in South LA, where my elementary principal, the late Dr. Genevieve Shepard, she made sure that not only did we learn the Black national anthem, not only did she bring in and get us connected to being able to listen to Jesse Jackson and to Andrew Young and getting us to Washington, D.C. I'm a 6th grader going off to Washington, D.C. and learning all the different history when it comes to Black Americans and the contributions in
this
America.
speaks to the gravity of this problem, though. This speaks to the deliberateness with which white identity has been saturated throughout all our environments, because you all are talking about the conversation that happens between Black Americans and Black immigrants, but it's a similar conversation happening between Black Americans and other Black Americans, and that's the level of depth that this is. My first encounter with white supremacy was not from white people. It was growing up in a housing project in Buffalo, New York, where I was consistently told, you talk white.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Now, my response would be, my response was consistently, it's actually, you speak white, but obviously I didn't say that, but I can be that. But so the thought is that every single intersection of Blackness has a level of beef associated with it. And so the reason that exists is to maintain division and separation. And an important note that we'll probably get to later is that colonialism, we oftentimes speak about it in the past tense. It's still
going up.
So you talked about that, because I want to get it, because that was something then in the comments. You know, you going through and you're looking at that, because for me going into the comments, you know, it's as a human, I want to go back and I want to fight back, right? But some of them, like one particular in the comments goes, well, you know, he ain't a real one, something like that, like, because look at the way he sounds. And another comment person gets in there, well, he grew up in Crenshaw. No, that's where his granny lived. No, my granny lived in Nigeria. You know, my granny lived in Nigeria. I grew up in the hood, but I'm like, wait, growing up in the hood, what does that mean? Like, then you start getting into the conversation of the Black card thing, like, wait, so what do I have to sound like? Because I feel like, and tell me if you feel this way, that I'm in this conversation, that I feel like I'm uniquely situated. You're uniquely situated, being that I'm a 1st generation Nigerian born in America, grew up in the hood. My father experienced from the redlining and then racism and all the other experiences that have been negative and positive I've experienced. So where does that idea come of that I get to question your Blackness because of the way you sound? Like, what the hell is that? That's the dumbest but it ever, man.
Doing stand-up comedy.
Have you experienced that?
Yeah, of course. They would be like, why do you talk white? You talk this. It's trauma. And speaking white, I go, a lot of white people can't speak either. There are a lot of them.
Well, one of the best responses that I've heard from that is, no, I speak the English of, James Baldwin. I speak the English of Frederick Douglass. Yeah. And, there were Black people who had a quote unquote command of the King's English. Too.
Yeah. Or I say tuition. Yeah. I would say tuition.
But
my parents paid for it. How else am I supposed to talk?
I didn't have
a waste of money.
Yeah, like I didn't have I grew up in a public school. I went to the public schools, right? But I'm like, wait, what about Barack Obama? I wonder if maybe he experienced that. I'm not sure, but I feel like everyone praised Barack Obama for his sound, and I'm going, wait. I'm confused. What are we supposed to sound like?
I think that in everyday interaction, you're not supposed to sound like that. Barack is at a certain level. We can handle that. James Baldwin, that's kind of celebrity.
There's always exceptions.
Type, you know what I mean? They have the exceptions.
There's always
but
exceptions.
every day you're in the Walmart and you're like, hi, do you know where the underwear is?
Remember Do the Right Thing? Remember Do the Right Thing? They had the pictures on the wall, and they're sitting there, and these individuals didn't like Black people. So he was like, well, what about Prince? What about Michael Jordan? He's like, they're different.
Or when he says, he's like, you always say this, say that, but who's your favorite artist? Prince. Oh, who's your favorite basketball? Michael Jordan. He's saying they're exceptions.
So white superiority, just like male privilege, you get to pull things out and make them exceptions, so you don't have to incorporate them into the general rule. Yeah. And so when you're a Black kid growing up in the projects and you're speaking like many of us speak, it's a division and it's trauma, because white supremacy says, this is the definition of Blackness. That's why Theo Huxtable was such an important character on television. It allowed Black boys to see, oh, I can still be just as Black as I need to be, still speak this way, still dress this way. When you think about Andre 3000, he allowed hip hop heads to see a different type of Blackness because he was an exception. And so we have to understand that the messages that we get demand that we stay in a particular category in order to be Black, so that people can continue to pull and separate us apart. Yeah, your dad participated in the foundational experience of South LA, of the Crenshaw district, back when there was still redlining, back when people still couldn't get jobs. So yeah, your dad did experience the exact same things that Black Americans experience, in addition to the intersection of the immigrant experience. Now, when you put all that together and remember the messages that everybody is being told, he is primitive, he is below you, and then you see him succeeding, you naturally have a trauma response, because the world has told you for generations that he's nothing.
Yeah, right.
He's nothing. Why is he doing that? And then it creates this divide, in the same way that your dads probably received messages about Black Americans and maybe consciously or subconsciously told you, don't be like him. You see that guy on the street? He's like that because he's a Black American. There's no fault of his own doing that. That's just what happens. That's how white supremacy works.
This is what was told to me, and this is how I perceived it growing up. And I think this is why I think I stand on the side that a lot of people disagree with. And I truly believe that this is the interpretation for most. This is my opinion, that this is the interpretation for a lot of Africans. And I don't want to dismiss, there are people who probably said Black Americans are this and whatever. So I don't want to dismiss that. But for me and my experience and how I grew up, my father came from Nigeria and came here in 1974. So obviously coming from the Biafra War. But not only that, and this dawned on me, it's like, wait a second. My dad lived in Nigeria when it was under colonial powers of the Great Britain.
That's right.
As a kid, you don't conceptualize time that way. So you don't get it. It's now that I'm adult. Wait. Nigeria got their independence in 1960, October 1st, 1960. My dad was born way before 1960. He was under the colonial rule.
Mine too.
And I'm going, whoa, so that blew my mind. So here it is. And this is how I've kind of, problem solved this. My father came to this country. My mother came to this country, and they saw a better opportunity. Now, I could understand from a Black American saying, like Jim Crow and slavery and everything that has gone on in Black American history, like, hell no, we don't have it good here. And I liken it to this. When you get what happened there in Africa, and you get the colonizers who come over and they just come out there and steal. That's called slavery, right? And bring them over to another house called America. But before they leave, they set that bitch on fire. and they put Africa on fire and destroyed their economy, destroyed their religion, destroyed their people, destroyed everything, separated family. People forget that. They separated families.
Yeah.
So dad over there, mom over there, dad over there, kid over there. Like they separated.
Yeah.
And then to say this one years and years later generation, some of the same people that were being making fun of, you might have been making fun of your cousin. Right? You might have been making fun of your cousin.
We're all
cousins. That's right.
Literally.
You're right.
Literally.
And I'm talking about like from the direct line, but yes, your cousin, yes.
Yeah.
But you set that on fire, right? So now you're over there. Yes, it's bad. I'm not taking that away. It's bad what happened in America and what's happening in America. And you're over here in a burning house and you're going, I got to get out of this burning house. I'm coming over there. And I'm going to go, wait, they have way more opportunities than I do over here because my house is burned.
You're picking the lesser of the two evils.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so to say that it's not looking down, it's just like, yo, you guys have this opportunity. And that's what my father, Americans have all of these opportunities. And so my father always focused and my mother always focused on the opportunities that were there rather than the opportunities that weren't there because that's what they saw.
But that's another thing when they say, well, you see all the opportunities, but what they did to Black Americans, the way they set it up, like you said, segregation, Jim Crow, because even when they freed Black people, they still were like, oh, we're not going to give you any jobs.
My grandfather was a sharecropper, not my great-grandpa.
Right. You still got to pay some of the slave owners for you being free.
They got insurance payments when they lost the enslaved people from their plantation.
That's right.
And so what you're describing is absolutely true. It's kind of like we're all in this rigged casino trying to bet who's the best loser. Like everybody is losing, right? And so it's really important to note everything you described is totally accurate and it's still going on across the continent. 25% of African countries have money that's printed in France. There are 14 countries currently using money printed in France. When you look at Congo and you look at the cobalt there, all the cobalt is being exported. If these nations were able to not just export raw materials like green coffee beans and unprocessed, it would collapse. These nations, if they were able to not just be miners, but also get the back end of it, meaning that when they take that cobalt to China, it goes to materials for for EVs, for batteries. If we were able to keep that on the continent, that would change the game. And so I'm saying all that to say that this deliberate plan that's been put together that sends this message to your dad who says, look at these opportunities that they have and they're squandering them. He got a mixed message of what was actually happening here when Black Americans were attempting to take advantage of those opportunities, and the narrative that is shipped across the world as it relates to what was happening then, it was way more Pollyannic than it really was. I mean, they certainly showed images of Black Americans doing great things, certainly things that weren't necessarily available on the continent of Africa across many countries. So there's no debate about that. There's no debate about the burning house. But there is debate about the level of livability of the house that we're in, that we were in.
I'm gonna relate it to how something that happened to me, and this was a powerful moment in my life. And I'm sure people will come at me and whatever. But growing up, I always felt that I grew up poor. Growing up, how we grew up, lunch ticket, crystal stairs, all that stuff. My parents just worked hard and we found a way, right? And my dad would knock on the door, turn off the water, Dad, I just got back from practice, right? And it wasn't until years later that I would go to Nigeria, right? And my dad would say stuff that just, I can't relate to it.
Right.
And I walk into the front of the house where he grew up, and there are 3 massive buckets of water. I'm like, it's random. You know, usually you walk into a foyer and you got something, and we don't have running water. I go, for me, and what it said, people say, oh, you don't know your history, whatever. I've never seen that because I had the luxury of running water. I had the luxury of running electricity. You know about rollouts. Right? You can have electricity right now. Absolutely. My dad would like burning kerosene for lights.
Poverty is relative.
It is. And
when I was walking through Alexandria, which is a township outside of Johannesburg, when I was there working, that looked very different than the poverty that you see here. And so it's all relative, but that doesn't mean that the scars of Black poverty are not the same.
Yes, it's not the same, and I don't want to minimize that. And that's not what I'm definitely not. I'm definitely not minimizing it.
It's not an oppression Olympics.
I think it's because you know, for my father, I think a lot of people don't hear those stories. And for me to see that, I'm going, it was the first time I ever go when my dad used to say, oh, this is Beverly Hills. Dad, you tripping. Yeah. It's not Beverly Hills. Yeah. And it wasn't until I went back to see where he started, of course, and how he grew up, where I go, oh, I can see how one could perceive this as an opportunity.
It was his Beverly Hills.
Even though, so my dad, he made it. Your father, he made it, right? Because he made it to the other side, right? And was able to do, even though here he would be technically considered poor, right? But he made it on the other side. And so when I look at that and I'm going, oh, there's a bridge there. But there's also something that I think is telling, and you talked about, is that no one talks in America in world history class, and I'd have been through them all in our standard, you know, K through 12. They glorify colonization. They never talk about the impact of colonization. I think the missing link is,
why would they do that?
I know we know here in America, right? I don't think there's anybody in America that's not really, unless you just want to be ignorant. You don't understand and know about civil rights. You don't know about all of the different, when it comes to Jim Crow and slavery. They tell us the thing on repeat every year since kindergarten, but they don't tell us about the impact of colonization or what happened.
They can't tell you the impact of colonization. The goal is to keep you ignorant.
Right.
I mean, the schools are done to keep you ignorant. Even with finances, it's done to keep you ignorant, keep you in debt.
Yeah.
So why would they, when anti-blackness is real around the world, why would they want to free you? Why would they want to give you an advantage? They got to keep telling you the same to keep you all fighting, to keep you like, you know, like
and that's what's
robots.
keeping the fight. That's the misunderstanding.
How American public education is situated. Public education in America was never situated to educate individuals.
Right.
Originally, public education was funded, you know how it was funded? On property tax.
I thought it was Rockefeller had a lot to do with
it. Some of the foundation of it, then you had some politicians. But the first public schools began after emancipation when they said that's what they're going to do. But the modern academic model for public education, it was originally funded by property tax. And so think about that for a moment. If you have the Compton Unified School District, which is right next door to the Manhattan Beach Unified School District, and your school district is financed by property taxes. If you pick a house up in Compton and drop it off in Manhattan Beach, it quadruples in price, maybe 5 times in price. What does that mean for the school district budget? It means that because all those homes are 5 times as much as the homes over here, that school is going to have 5 times as much budget for everything. And so what we're talking about here is that people who are under-resourced, people who are brown and black are consistently engaged in education systems that were not created to do what you're talking about. And so we have to stop looking at the result and begin looking at the problem. I'm fortunate enough that I was bused out of my project neighborhood to a magnet school where I got to see things that I would never have gotten to see in my neighborhood school. Then I went to a HBCU, Hampton University, shout out. And then I was able to do that, which also changed the game. Education, the way that it is currently situated, is not aimed at creating freedom.
Of course not.
No. It's not.
And I think that's the freedom that I believe that would allow this misunderstanding between Black Americans and Black African immigrants.
It still wouldn't be enough. You two were both just illustrating all the books you read, all the seminars you've been to. And the beef is still there because it's a part of our DNA. I'll talk about epigenetics later.
But the thing is that it sounds corny, but it's like saying diet and exercise, which is actually true. Right. Reading about self-knowledge is real. Just started off because it's heavy trauma.
Absolutely.
So me as a Nigerian American, I said, let me read about the Black American experience because I'm around it. I'm part of it. I'm
living it. We grew up
normal. My friends on Mississippi, Kentucky,
you're about to go to the NAACP Awards. I mean, that's a thing.
Thank you. Right, exactly.
The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. And y'all work on that name, I think.
You got it. I wish
Tyler would say the same thing.
I wish they would change
it. But anyway.
But that is like, you need to have that, even though James Baldwin said a man that's conscious is always in turmoil. But I'd rather be that and and deal with that turmoil than not being ignorant to because it's happening. They're still going to behave the way they behave.
Absolutely.
But I'd rather know, why are they behaving that way? It's like, you know what I mean? When people and people love to tell black people to move on. We're probably the only race people go, why don't we just move on? I go, what if you went to a doctor's appointment, right? And they didn't pull out nothing. They just said, all right, bend over. You're like, wait, what is the first thing they pull out? Your medical history. Yeah. They always pull out your medical history. History is always, in football, let's do sports. Everything. When Mo gets up to the plate, they go, well, last week he hit blah, 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 and he had an injury.
Watch the film.
It's always history. History is very important for you to assess.
My son and his soccer team, they watch film.
Yeah, you watch film. You have to see
games.
But when it comes to us, it's like we need to watch film on the enemy. You need to watch. It's
the problem is the film that we have is not sufficient to undo the damage that we're in. That's the problem.
Right.
There aren't enough accessible areas of content that don't just say colonization happened. It speaks about colonization, to your earlier point, as just a geographic issue. It doesn't speak about the families that were impacted. It doesn't speak about the long-lasting impact right now. Over 75% of women in Nigeria use skin bleaching creams today.
Ambi. That's what it's called. Yeah, 75%.
Over 75, and that's in Nigeria. South Africa, I think it's like 35%, but across the entire continent, I think it's 27% of women across the entire continent of Africa. So, and these things are carcinogenic. They're everything bad for your skin. And so we're talking about, and people, and this is the greatest example. People look at that as though it's a thing about vanity. They say, oh, they're bleaching their skin because it's about vanity. That's the same definition of colonialism that we get, that it's just about geography. These women are putting carcinogens on their face, not because of vanity, because for hundreds of years, the world has told them the lighter your skin, the closer you are to everything.
Yes.
And so colorism is racism turned inward and sideways. And that's what that is. It's not just cosmetic.
Hell no.
This is deeper. It's so much deeper than that. And so, yes, we need to read. We need to see film. We need to do all these things. But we need to create. We need to create opportunities to see the actual foundation, the etiology, as they say in science. Where did this come from? What's the root of the problem?
I would love to see, to me, when I think about this, like, hey, what's the resolution? Like being able to have more, and especially even if it's just in our Black community, being able to have the real education of, what happened in Africa. Like a lot of people don't even realize, like, Africa is still, and when we're talking about Africa that is cut up with 54 countries,
they're still there.
That's a new concept. Prior to them, there was not 54 countries. It was just
there weren't borders.
There weren't borders. It's just one Africa with a bunch of different kingdoms that went around. But then, as we've talked about before, when you talk about the Berlin Conference and the mad dash,
slice it all up
and just slice it up. Like, I mean, you're splitting straight down. It's like somebody coming down your house and splitting it straight down the middle and saying, nope. You have your, like, yo, this is the same house. And now you got us fighting against each other. But when we start learning that history here in America, I think what it does, it balances it out, because I think there's a lot of the history here in America purposely not told. And I'm sure maybe it's the same back in Africa where
of course
the American history isn't told.
Oh no.
And that is so, and then what we do is we get them here and we get them fighting amongst each other. I think to me, I think straight up, it's the dumbest thing ever. Like,
it's the smartest thing for them.
Right.
But the dumbest thing for us.
So when all these clowns are like, you come in, I'm like, no, bro, like, this is the wrong fight. You don't want that smoke. You don't want, it's not me you coming after.
I don't understand why they're messing with him. You went to NFL, that's black. I mean, that's as black as you get.
You risk CTE for the culture.
I made it to the NFL. I played for the Raiders. I don't know how black you was. I played for the Raiders. I don't know how black you want me to get, brother.
So I want to talk about this, because there's this term that and I know people are not going to like this, but I don't like the term FBA, because I think it is the most separatist term coined back in 2019 by
was it Tariq Nasheed?
Tariq,
I know Tariq.
Yeah. And Tariq Nasheed coined this term, and maybe he had good intent, because it's like, hey, how do we separate when it comes to reparations and being able to say, hey, this belonged to the black slaves that came to America and their descendants. And I get that. I get and understand that concept. But what it does, it furthers this idea of separation. And I think back again to childhood and the stuff that even as an adult, like, I'm not African. I'm anything but African, right? I got Indian in my blood. I'm Creole. I'm anything but African. And so when you say foundationally Black American, it's like, yes, I can say I'm foundationally Black American and I am not you. I'm like, no. Because like my father used to tell me, I don't know what all these fuss is about. They are the same people. You guys are brothers.
Yeah.
And then like, my dad said, y'all brother, man, we ain't your brother. We ain't African booty scratchers. No, but we look alike. No.
Yeah.
All right, man. All right, cool.
Well, this came into when reparations was being considered.
Yeah.
When reparations came in, they're like, how much are Black Americans owed?
It had to be codified.
Right. They're owed a lot.
Yeah.
They deserve
a lot.
The inventions in America are damn near all Black. Let's just keep it 100. All the stuff that people are using, from the doorknob to the escalator to the elevator to
medical devices,
refrigeration, medical devices to pacemakers to GPSs to helicopter. We can just keep going. People are using it because a lot of white inventors were able to steal patents. Like Thomas Edison stole patents.
Yeah, sure.
Lewis Latimer's patent, they stole all of it.
Yep.
So they deserve reparations. Foundation, I believe that.
100%.
Black Americans, you deserve it. Now, if there's some money left, you can give it to us because we will call. So I got. They
gonna come after you.
I called the N. I got called the N-word in my honors English class. What you talking about? I'm like, I get some money. Don't I get some trauma?
I say spread that you say.
I get N-word trauma.
If there's leftover,
unless they were pronouncing Nigeria wrong. I was like, it's only one G, man. It's not two G's.
I was working in Serbia, and this dude yelled at me from across the road, "Hey, N-word."
In Serbia,
and it wasn't like N-word, get out of here. It was more like, I've heard some Jay-Z, Kendrick Lamar songs. Yeah. So about foundational Black Americans. I was like,
I just want to be my brother.
Off guard. It caught me off guard. And it was a hard R too.
The question is, do we like the term FBA?
So it's not a matter of whether we like it. Let's talk about where it originated. You both talked about reparations. Another place where it came from was this acronym of BIPOC, the Black, Indigenous, People of Color. This whole propensity to throw everybody into one bucket. And Black Americans felt like being thrown into that bucket was going to kind of erase some of the historical context associated specifically with Black Americans. But the problem is that you all just mentioned is, even though the coining of the term is valuable, if we're looking at reparations, and some municipalities are doing that, they have to codify who is in line or aligned to get this. Makes sense. The problem is people are using it instead of a bridge, they're using it as a border to keep people separate. And that can happen with anything. So it's not really about the term, it's about how do we allow white superiority ideology to infiltrate the term? Right. How do we allow that to police how we behave and how we interface with one another? And that's the problem. And so we get this new thing and we're just putting it right in the same pot that we're using to separate from one another. And that's the challenge. Every time something new happens, and it could be perfectly aimed at bringing us together, because colonialism and epigenetics are so real, we continue to separate from each other. Now, let's not even start talking about our Afro-Latino brothers and sisters.
Woo, I know Black.
That's a whole different conversation.
I have a video. I have a video that has been viral. It's in the zeitgeist pretty much. It's like 6 years I did a thing where I was talking about Dominicans.
Yeah.
And I said, I was talking about, it's so funny how they look just like us and be like, I know Black, Papa, I know Black.
Yeah.
I'm Dominican. I said, that's a place, but you're a Black person in the Dominican Republic. I know Black, Papa, I know Black. I say, you look like me.
We just got dropped off at different locations.
And we're both in handcuffs.
No.
Literally.
No, just kidding.
No, literally.
But I say, I know Black, but it's like, and then the joke I have is, let's say Black Americans were to get their reparations. Let's say they got every dime. Dominicans would be like, I'm Black. I was just kidding. I'm Black. I was a slave. Wade in the agua. Wade in the agua, listen. I'm Black. Chocolate, look. I was just kidding. It was a yoke. A yoke. It was a yoke.
So I guess let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question. What is it? What does it mean to be Black? What is Black? Because
what is it? What is it?
It's a great question, because I think for me, I'm hoping that it will resolve this idea of you're not Black, you're black, but you're not black. You know, like you don't get your black card, right? We've all hold the black card, right? If you do anything that breaks out, you're not black.
This definition of blackness, we were all sharing stories earlier about how in our urban communities, we were told we don't speak like the other black guys, and we don't maybe do some of the other things like the other black guys do. Humor and, this anxious humor is what comes out of what we call horizontal hostility. It is less dangerous for me to confront the system that creates the dynamics that we're in. And so instead of aggressing towards the system that is creating this, I aggress horizontally amongst my peers and amongst those who look like me, because that's easier. And so as a result, we create this dynamic whereby this blackness is the blackness to be revered. And then you have this blackness. I mean, you have these conversations going on right now between, these black upper echelon groups like the Divine Nine fraternity sororities.
Yes.
Is it okay for kids to be in Jack and Jill, those who can't get in Jack and Jill? Is it okay for you to do guards? All these things, all these conversations are happening because the world has not allowed us to have a malleable community. Remember, whiteness has been malleable for generations. When Irish people arrived on this land, they weren't considered white
at all. No.
When other European immigrants arrived on this land, none of them were white. Nope. And so the descendants of the colonists began to see the difference happening in the numbers of people, like we see right now. For the first time in American history, the 2020 census showed a decline in the number of individuals on the census who identify as white only. It threw white Americans
it's a done deal.
Show. It scared them because this idea of your identity no longer holding dominance is a deal breaker. And then we just got news that for the first time last year in 2025, I think, we had the first time where the numbers of babies born in America, the numbers of babies born who were identified as not white, was more than the number of babies born who were identified as white. So I'm saying all this to say that identity holds such a strong component of us. And when we talk about blackness, we have not been allowed to be as malleable as whiteness. So whiteness continued to grow until it's absorbed every cultural background that it could. The last group were individuals who identified as Persian. The Kardashians would not have been white 50 years ago. Today they are white. And so I'm saying,
which is insane. They're Armenian.
Well, I'm saying that's the malleability of the group. When they see that the numbers are decreasing,
they start adding people. Except us.
So there's no.
So they don't even take our light skin.
There's no way to phenotypically.
We got light skin ones. Why don't they be like, whoa. Are the light skin ones get considered white
so
yet?
This is
those
like
are the passing ones.
Look, so I was up in this thing to see. I hit CJ. I was like, man, this stuff is crazy on here. So to take away my black card, I don't know how you can take it. I'm African. I grew up in. I don't know how you can take it away. They go, well, his wife is white. I was like, no, she's biracial. Well, she's light. I'm like, wait, so you get to pick which side she's on? I'm like, wait, do you get to pick which side Barack is on? Do you get to pick which side Matt Barnes is on? Do you get to pick which side Steph Curry's on? Like, wait, what? I was like, so based off of how we feel about you, we determine then what my spouse is. First off, keep my wife out your mouth. Keep my wife's name out your mouth. How about that? Yeah, I was like, what?
For starters.
How about that? I'm outside, son.
To your point, is this like now we're going based off of shade. Well, this light-skinned person's black and this light-skinned person's...
It's been happening. Think Lenny Kravitz has not been, until the last 10 years, Lenny Kravitz had not been embraced by black media. Lenny Kravitz was not at the NAACP Awards 20 years ago.
Wasn't.
He was not at, and his mother is the blackest black character ever on TV. One of the most important black characters ever on TV from the Jeffersons. And so for him to be snubbed by black business media, it speaks to what we're talking about. He did not define what Black America wanted Black America to be. And as a result, he and individuals, like I said, Andre 3000, all those De La Soul, they were placed on this other side, even Diggable Planets, they were placed on this other side. They're not really black.
But it's the rejection because it feels like the rejection is to force conformity. If you are not this, then you are out. Is that accurate?
No, the rejection is to maintain separation.
Yeah, no doubt. But the sad part about it is
And that's another part
being
of it.
alternative is not a white thing. You're
No.
talking about. You got Parliament P-Funk, who Red Hot Chili Peppers stole everything because they inducted George Clinton into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They said Keyless, the lead, said
black music.
Oh, every genre of American music is black, and so he goes, "Oh, we Red Hot Chili Peppers, they're on stage naked." Parliament had been doing that in 1978, and even was it David Gruhl from Foo Fighters? He goes, "You know where I got my drumming
All his
from?
stuff, Gap
From
Band.
the Gap Band."
The Gap Band.
But all of them do that. They take all the from black. Pink
country-
Floyd.
if you
Pink
think-
Floyd is the name of two black blues singers, Pink and Floyd. So I mean, they're always
Country
taking
music.
Country,
The
black,
originators
of
country
course
music.
it is.
They called it Carter Family, the foundational country music
Which is
artist.
bull.
Was being taken around the whole South with a black dude learning all this.
Learning all
so
this stuff,
this
right.
is all
Yeah.
deliberate to maintain black music, white music. It's not
Race.
a thing.
Remember race records? They had
Absolutely.
race records where black
Yeah.
people couldn't even be on the cover of their own albums.
That's right.
You know, but
So everything you're describing is purposeful, and I hate to keep saying that and keep grounding it in this kind of colonial framework.
Yeah.
But all these things are aimed at keeping the narrative and the argument over here to avoid having this conversation about what colonialism consistently today does to us. When I meet brothers in London or in Paris, we're all talking about the same thing. Black men in London and Paris are also dying of heart disease earlier. They're also being locked up more. My first book just narrates all of that across Canada, the UK, everywhere.
Same thing.
So can I ask this then? Because this is kind of the question that I think that I asked to Godfrey that just blew
That
everything
started-
up.
that started all the
whole
drama?
Thing is like, how can we show Black African immigrants here in America? How can we show them appreciation? Because it seemed and felt like it was a sin to even ask. How dare you ask for appreciation? And furthermore, there were those who said, what contributions have Black African immigrants made to this country? And I'm going, wait, what?
Dumb.
I said, first start off with Barack Obama, right? That's an easy one to.
Have you ever been to Johns Hopkins? And so I think that the reason why you receive so much vitriol is because your request for respect for the contributions of Black immigrants was juxtaposed to a conversation about Black Americans. And I think had it been an individual conversation solely about looking at the values and benefits that all immigrants bring to this land, including African immigrants, it would have been a very different conversation. But it came, and I watched it came off as though it was an either or. And I know that wasn't your intent, but the process shows that the trauma is then popped up and we don't even know what is happening. And so everybody on their Twitter fingers, or whatever it is, everybody on their, anonymous Twitter fingers, they're coming at you, not realizing that they're also responding to a trauma trigger because they've been activated now.
And I think too,
I was
because
gonna say when Shabuzi, who's Nigerian, won his award, he went on stage and said, "I just want to say that immigrants helped build the country," and I think he was answering to ICE. He wasn't answering to Black Americans. He was just saying that because of the things that were happening with ICE, everyone trying to deport immigrants. He was saying, and so they got on him and say, "No, Black Americans." I said, I don't think he meant Black Americans like that because he's participating in a Black American art form. He meant because of what was happening with ICE. He was like, immigrants help build.
It was taken out of context.
Because Black Americans, I always know they built this damn country.
But let's
period.
be fair. We can say that. We can say that, and we can say that there are Black Americans who frown on on African immigrants,
Of course.
and minimize the contribution,
which is dumb because it's a combination. You look at hip hop and how many Jamaicans contribute to.
Absolutely.
How many rappers are Jamaican? Because there's a battle between but Jamaican Americans, Kool Herc, KRS-One, they're Jamaicans. So let's not get it twisted. There's a lot of contributions of Caribbeans. Shirley Chisholm. You got Chisholm, who's Caribbean. You got Esterol, who's Bahamian. You got Sidney Poitier, who won the first Oscar as a Black, but he was Caribbean. So we're all in the same game. It's like everybody's contributing. But we do know who the foundation is, who built it. But from there, we should stop arguing about this. and know.
But it's never been challenged. I guess what I'm saying, and like even when you and I were talking, and I think a lot of that came from me and agreeing with you. I was like, yeah, I get it. But we're not talking about the other side. But you went on your historical thing, right? And I'm going, yeah, I get it. Yep, I get it. But it was just like, wait, there's another side that has to be, like, we have to understand, because we don't talk about it, right? A lot of times, like the things that we're talking about, the stuff that we're talking about now, as God is my witness, I just went to a basketball game and I told CJ this, and I said, South African lady, I'm not going to do the accent because you're going to get on me. I already know.
No, I want you to do it.
No, I'm not going to do it. She came to me and she said, no. And she said to me, she goes, I just want to say thank you.
No.
In tears, she said, I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Because, no, I'm not going to do it.
Come on,
but she said, I want to thank you because what you're talking about is the things that we suffered in silence. Who are you going to go cry to and tell that, they're making fun of me and the way I'm being treated at work? Yeah. They disrespect me. They don't value me at work because I'm literally because I'm African. Right. And it's not from the white people that they're getting it from. They're getting it from the people that they call their own.
And remember, this is not unique to us.
Yeah.
This is Cuban on Mexicans. Yeah. Like, this is not unique to us. This is a dynamic that exists to maintain the narrative of white superiority ideology. If we can keep all of the black and brown people fighting against one another, we maintain control.
That's it.
We maintain control. And so when we talk about, the little black kids who are in this circle or that circle or from this place or that place, we're conditioned to have beef against each other, whether it's socioeconomic status, whether it's the way you speak, whether it's where you're from. I mean, people have neighborhood beefs. This is the goal, to maintain separation and to maintain this, like I said, maintain this horizontal hostility. That's the goal.
I want to talk, because you've brought this up before, when we've talked about, where it's King Leopold and colonization, and how that still happens today in a lot of areas. We haven't talked about, like, the German leader, Lothar von Trotha, right? And where, there was a part of Africa, Namibia, that used to actually be called Germany Southwest, right? Yeah. Or we talk about Rhodes, right? Where,
Cecil Rhodes,
Cecil Rhodes, where the country used to be called
Rhodesia.
Rhodesia, and how this is African land that was taken up. Where in history, or how do we get that history disseminated even more? Because I could walk up to a person and I can say, do you know the civil rights of 1965? Right? People, 1964, people tell, oh yeah. You tell people, like, do you know Harriet Tubman, Malcolm X? Do you know,
the
these
basics?
The basics. They will tell you the basics, right?
Yeah. But can you tell me about the history of Timbuktu? Can you tell me about Mali?
Right.
Can you tell me about the kingdom?
What is the original name of Africa?
Right.
And so,
you know the original name.
Well, tell us.
Kebulan. Kebulan. Africanus is from Leonidas Africanus, is the actual Roman leader, where they named Africa after him.
Yeah.
So, what about that? There's like so many.
I mean, even when you look at a map,
the Mercator map,
and you look at the size that the continent is compared to the other continents on the map, they deliberately make it smaller than it actually is. If those maps were to scale, the continent of Africa would be much larger than it is. And then another geographic thing they do, they try to make Northern Africa, particularly places like Egypt and Morocco, they make them Middle Eastern in order, and the new term is Swana. Middle East is also a colonized term.
What's the new?
Swana is the Southwest North Asia area, and Middle East is not even geographically accurate.
There's no such thing as
There's no such thing as the Middle East, and so we still say it so that people understand what we're talking about. Yeah. But that whole area, the Maghreb, is considered Middle Eastern, and culturally, it does have some parts of that. I've been up there many times. Yeah. But they remove it from the continent in order to minimize the diversity across the continent, and to make it such that all of those amazing things that happen on that part of the continent are not black, are not African.
As long as
and so when we talk about the history of colonization and what can we do to make sure people understand it, the first thing is you all are doing it. You all are creating accessible conversations that allow people to dig in and learn something that they may not have known before, to have a conversation about how do we and why do we have this divide between Black Americans and other immigrants and inside Black Americans. That's the first step, is creating a platform where people can have the conversation. You should be grateful that that debate went viral because that means that
No,
you
I think
struck
it's
a nerve.
great. I think to open it up because we have a
struck
chance
a
to talk
nerve.
about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's just, I'm like, we're all from the same thing, man.
Right.
Enough,
We're literal cousins.
enough with trying to have a beef. Cut it out.
Right.
Just,
Stop
what do you
it.
do? It's like gangs. Gangs were created by the government. Gangs were created. Gangs in Chicago were breakfast programs. They were like programs to help the neighborhood.
Yeah.
But then J. Edgar Hoover said, we got to get these cats fighting. So they would even send decoys, fake black people to act like gangbangers.
They were real black people, y'all, but
Yes.
they just weren't gangbangers.
right. And they would just come in and go and start beefs with people.
Absolutely.
It would be like decoys.
Absolutely.
To come in to start trouble.
They did that a lot in the Nation of Islam.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So
Within, to create all that conflict.
They were
within.
dropping-
So yeah, because
Implants.
the biggest threat to American security is black progress. That is what
J.
J.
Edgar
Edgar
Hoover
Hoover
said.
said while he was dressed up like a woman, wearing lipstick, and I heard he's half black.
I did hear some
Yes,
words
that his
about-
lineage is
I know
black.
that. I didn't know
His
that.
lineage is
Yeah,
black.
I've heard about that.
You have self-hating black people. You have President Trujillo from the Dominican Republic who wanted to get rid of Haitians, even though Haitians freed the Hispaniola island, and he would powder his skin because he was half Haitian, powder his skin and wear a Hitler mustache.
Well, remember,
to get rid of black
it's
Haitians.
not always self-hate. I mean, like, you know,
It's not,
when you're in DR, and I remember the first time I went to the Dominican Republic and realized that it and Haiti were on the same landmass.
Same.
Yeah.
And I observed how differently these people on the exact same landmass were treated.
Yes.
And how they engaged one another and the narrative that was created because Haiti did things that no other black nation was able to do historically. And as a result, they've been vilified throughout history. And that has been something that has led to a lot of discrimination for that group.
cooking now.
And so when you think about kind of geography and you think about all of the ways in which it was divided and split up deliberately to maintain this very specific narrative.
Is there a way to break the cycle? Because I would love nothing more. Like, and again, I think it's worth saying again, like how much I appreciate, my father being able to come to this country and for the people that came before my father and my mother, and laid that opportunity. The black Americans, just have been decimated by the system in the United States, and the people who continue to fight through and created that opportunity. And now it's just like, okay, we're at this very unique point right now in American history. And you go, what do we do with this platform? How do we end, especially amongst our people? If we're going to be fighting outside, like as a married man, like, man, I'm fighting outside. I damn sure don't want to come home and have a fight and be fighting on the inside with my family, right? How do we end the fight from within? Is it possible, or is that like, that's never going to end?
I hate to be pessimistic. It may not be possible in our lifetime.
Nope.
To be honest with you, I'll be 49 years old next month, and so it may not be possible in our lifetime. But here's an example. You two had this thing happen, and you could have just washed past it. You could have just had a conversation, but you said, oh, let's bring an expert on who knows racial trauma, who knows history, who knows psychology, and let's unpack it further. Those are the steps that need to happen. This type of critical thinking where people get a platform to dig deeper in and understand that so many of the truths that we hold as true are not actually true. So many things that we've been told about the world. I remember when I lived in Maryland and I was in my 20s, and me and my buddies would go out, and my single buddies would say that because there was a huge population of Ethiopian and Eritrean people in the community where we hung out. And they would say that the Eritrean and the Ethiopian girls would tell them, my dad told me I can't date black Americans because I can never take you home because you're lazy. Now, could some of that have been capped? I don't even know if we say that. Kids.
I think the kids still kind of, it's on its way out.
If I said it, kids ain't saying it no more. So I don't know.
It used to be you would get a cap in your ass.
Right.
So I can't say whether or not all my boys was lying and that the girl just didn't want to mess with him, but the narrative was there that one of the reasons why these women said they would not date black, and I'm talking HBCU graduates, I'm talking, good guys, the reason why they would not cannot date them is because their African dads told them, you cannot date a Black American man. And so when we're talking about breaking this cycle, we're talking generations that have to undo this trauma associated. So Dr. Joy Degree wrote this book.
Dr. Joy.
Yeah, and so she wrote this book called Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. It's not a real like PTSD, but it's a thing, right? So she gives this example in one of her lectures. She says, you had two moms sitting at a basketball game, a white mom and a Black mom, and the Black mom looks at the white mom and says, you guys must be really proud of Johnny. He's doing a great job. And the Black mom, and both boys are equally mediocre. Nobody's a rock star. The white mom looks back and says, yeah, we're really proud of him. He's doing a great job. And so the white mom looks at the Black mom and says, oh, you must be really proud of Kwame. He's doing a great job. And the Black mom says, girl, he a mess in school. He got all these girls calling the house. He's doing this, doing that again. Both boys are equally mediocre. Yet the white mom responds in a neutral, non-combative, non-boastful way. The Black mom, as Dr. Degree describes, begins to demean her equally as good son. Where do you think Dr. Degree says that comes from? Slave plantation. When the slave plantation owner would go to the Black mom and say, oh, Toby's doing really good out there. He picking most of the cotton, he's doing excellent. The Black mother would say, no, master, he's shiftless, he's lazy, because that mother knew in that moment that master was going to sell her son to another plantation. And so instinctually, she had to begin to talk bad about him, to demean him. And so we're talking enslavement ended in 1865, and these things are still happening today. DNA. And so this is the depth with which I'm talking about it. And we only talk about it on this superficial level, like skin bleaching cream is just beauty and that colonialism was just borders. We will never get past it until we begin talking about the depths in which it exists.
And how it's permeated into our soul.
There was an experiment.
The way we thinking and the way we feel and what we...
In our DNA.
Yeah, in our DNA. Wow.
There was an experiment they did on some rats, right? These rats in a box. You know how you like to put rats in a box? Yeah. So they had these rats. These rats would come to this certain line and they would shock the rats. They would just shock them for months. So every time they hit a certain area of the box, by the edge of the box, they would shock them, and the rats would run back. They did it for months. So the rats had offspring.
Yep.
And then the offspring didn't even go to the line. The offspring, before they got, the offspring would never leave the box because it was literal it was trauma.
So what Godfrey is describing is this type is what we call epigenetics. Epi is the Latin prefix that means above. And so epigenetics is this program that sits just above your DNA. So like we call it, it's not a modification where they actually changes the DNA, but if we talked about it from a construction standpoint, it wouldn't be me knocking down a wall, it would be me painting over an air conditioning vent. It doesn't change the structure of the room, but it changes its functionality. We first learned about intergenerational trauma when we saw clinicians looking at their rosters and all their clients were the children of Jewish Holocaust survivors. These kids had never been in the Holocaust. Right. These young adults had never been in the Holocaust, but their parents were. As a result of that, we began to study how can trauma be passed down from a group to a group when that secondary group never actually experienced the trauma. And so what they found was that for these Holocaust survivors, they would go to their grandparents' house and they would have curtains over the balcony. They would tell them, don't tell anybody you're Jewish. Don't let anybody know, because they were literally scared for their lives. That across generations implants on our DNA, like I described, this epigenetics. And when we're talking about these interactions and how we interface with one another, how we interface with others, it's not just about learning. It's about understanding that you deliberately have to make a decision that is different from your automatic thought because it is ingrained in you to develop separation as a result of years and years and years. When we talk about people who moved from South Carolina to Chicago and passed for white, they weren't self-hating. They just wanted their lineage to live.
That's it.
They just wanted to survive. They knew that people were hanging from trees. My grandfather would see people hanging from trees when he was growing up. And so if I had, I can't say I would, but if I had the ability to pass as white in 1921,
I would have passed.
I might have.
I would have been in
I might have. And so
golf balls.
Listen, and so we have to begin having this conversation with a level of expertise and depth that goes beyond just the surface.
Yeah, so I want to understand better how things get passed down.
Okay, so when we think about indigenous Americans and we think about right now, when you look at the outcomes for indigenous Americans, they are dying earlier from heart disease. They are having alcoholism problems. There are problems with education, substance abuse, domestic violence, every negative tick point that you can think about as it relates to sociocultural outcomes, you're seeing inside indigenous communities, early childbirths, early child deaths, everything. And so what research is showing us is that these things are connected to the time when the colonists arrived on this land and they would take their kids and ship them to boarding schools way across the nation. They would tear their families apart. They would intentionally give them diseases. And so now you have this small population of individuals who are experiencing this really, really unique trauma. What happens is the stress associated with that impacts the way that our DNA reproduces itself. And again, remember, we're not talking about a DNA modification. So I'm not talking about things that create developmental disorders and things like that. We're talking about the directives over it. And so one message that they've given is that a part of the concern with alcoholism and substance abuse connected to this epigenetic problem is that there may not be enough messages from this new transmitter that's happening to produce the right amounts of things that bring in your cortisol. So now you may be able to de-stress. Cortisol is the chemical that runs through your body that makes you experience stress. And then we have mechanisms that reduce that cortisol as it runs through the blood. Epigenetics could, in fact, reduce your ability to reduce that cortisol and regulate it. And so suddenly, because of epigenetics, may be abnormally stressed and my chemicals in my body are not responding adequately.
How some people could have high blood pressure,
So it's hard to pin all the specificities on it, but the fact of the matter is as a result of racial stress and racial trauma and all these experiences, it's not just a mindset. Our DNA is literally impacted by how colonialism is played out across generations.
Hence why you said it probably wouldn't happen in our lifetime.
That's right, because we are now, epigenetics is just probably, the study of epigenetics is probably just 30 years old. We still got Black women dying on birthing tables at 5 times the rate as white women. And so we're just now digging into the true gravity of it. We're just getting past the superficial part. And so, that's why I don't think it would be, done in our lifetimes. I was lucky enough that my great grandpa lived till I was 21 years old. And the amount of time, the frequency with which he used the N-word to describe Black people he liked, Black people he didn't like, white people, it was astounding. And I look generations down, I don't use it in that same way that he used it, because his use of it was a trauma response to the frequency with which he was called it as a boy in Jim Crow, North Carolina. And so for him, he was freeing himself of all of that with the frequency with which he used that word. And so it's deeper than just a conversation. It's how do we understand the source and what's happening as a result.
One of the other things that popped up in our conversation was in my expressing, how hard my father worked, because I lived it, right? That was my experience with my father, and talking about he worked hard. Many thought that this was me leaning into some trope about Black Americans being lazy, which is the furthest thing from the truth. I've not witnessed it. That has never been my experience. But then you start thinking about, again, the history, and you start thinking back to where these ideas historically, and you think about like with slave owners and how they would perpetuate this idea in order to get slaves to continue to build their wealth. They would say that they're lazy and that they would whip them and they would do anything just to justify that. And then that continued to kind of go down. And even after Jim Crow.
Quick correction. the narrative of the lazy black person did not happen before slavery. It happened right after. And so prior to slavery, the narrative was they're dangerous and we have to enslave them. Otherwise, they will kill themselves and everybody around them. After the Emancipation Proclamation, that's when the narrative of the lazy enslaved person, the lazy black person came about. Prior to that, just think about it. It would be virtually impossible to call the enslaved lazy when they're working 7 days a week, sun up to past sundown. It would be cognitively impossible to lay that on them.
Well, that's what, see, because my understanding of the history has been that slave owners utilized that mind trick to be able to say, hey, we need them to keep going. So if you're working 13, 15, 16, 17, 18 hours, y'all lazy. I'm going to keep saying and keep justifying that I need you to turn this thing over faster when you can only, so that then morphed into what we know, post, Reconstruction, where it turned into a way to then be able to control, obviously, the way we were and the way we produced, you know what I mean? So,
it's like the bootstrap thing. You guys got to
pull yourself up.
Bootstrap. I say,
I hate
first
that.
of all, black people have been pulling themselves up. Black Americans have towns that have been burned up because a white woman said she got raped. You got Lanier, the town of Lanier, which is there's 7 black towns that are drowned underwater.
And it's scary because people be dying at Lake Lanier all the time.
They die from spirits dragging them in. So they have flooded black neighborhoods with rivers. They have Seneca Village. It used to, now it's Central Park in New York.
The 10 freeway. The 10 freeway right here used to be West Adams, filled with the most important black folk in America.
they build freeways through black neighborhoods. They put black people on toxic dumps. You got the Dulles Airport. That was a black town. DC, that was a black town. So black people have built their own. They had their banks, they had their hospitals, and white people came and burned them motherfuckers. So black people have been working hard all the time. They just come and they f it up.
But again, the narrative wins. The narrative that black people, even when you give all those data points, the narrative of the lazy black American still exists. But remember, it's not just a narrative. We have to talk about the fact that all of these images are being sent out deliberately to maintain that narrative.
That's right.
When I work overseas and I turn to whatever American station is on the TV there and I see what movies are they showing over here? What images of black America are being exported to Eastern Europe? And I've been on every continent in the world except Antarctica. And every time I'm there, I do an assessment of what images are being exported. And they're consistently images of black criminality, black clowns, black laziness. And so it makes sense that if your first experience with black Americans are criminals and clowns, of course you're going to frown on them.
And that's going to spread throughout. And this is why even Eddie Murphy talked about this with Boomerang. It was very, very difficult for people to go, wait, this is a whole world where you don't have any white people in this movie.
Not even the office manager?
And where's the white guy?
Right. And so, but not even that, like just, you're looking at a bunch of successful black people and they interact and it was like, that was weird.
That's why I went to an HBCU. It was 4 years without racism.
Damn.
The only 4 years in my life I was able to live without racism was at Hampton University in Virginia in the 90s. Damn. The only 4 years in my life that I got to live without racism.
My sister had a similar, experience in saying too, because she went to Bennett College in Greensboro, North Carolina. And so, and you talk about the impact and what that means and how that it's the first time you start to see things and your eyes become open. You know what I mean?
It means something. It means something to see that type of thriving. And, there were people whose parents were judges and mayors of small towns and lawyers and medical directors. And here I am coming from Buffalo, New York, which is also a very black segregated town. Buffalo's like 38% black. Rick James. It was one of the last stops on the Underground Railroad. And so when you come from this under-resourced community and you land at this elite black college and you are now surrounded by blackness that's not your blackness, it forces you to think about it. But what happened was I got to think about my blackness without the valence of white supremacy being present there.
This is something that I think and I'd love to hear your thought on it. Where Godfrey and where we sit, because, it is this unique. I don't even know how to answer their own question. And I think it's something that we experience is where people say, you probably got this, where you're not American, you're African.
Yeah.
You're not African, you're American. Where were you born? Where were you born? If I tell somebody I'm from Christian, well, man, shut up, man. You African.
Right. Where you really
okay,
from?
Yeah. Then I go, I'm African. Man, shut up. Where were you born?
You're American.
In LA. Man, you from Crenshaw. Shut up. Like, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What? Like, and then to hear people go, well, you're not situated. I'm like, wait, you're not situated to speak on the FBA situation. I'm going, wait, how is my, I'm going, wait, like, I don't get it. Like, I've only known America.
You're not foundational.
You're not foundational because your ancestors, like, you've not experienced. I was like, wait, we the same age. Actually, I'm older than you. Like, what do you mean? I seen stuff in the 70s and 80s or in the 80s
before you came around.
Before you come around, but
late to the party.
Well,
you're bum.
27-year-old.
Yeah, I've had that. I go, man.
So
or some Nigerian, young Nigerian. You're not Nigerian. I was Nigerian before you. I ate fufu before you.
Literally.
I know Agusi before you, stupid.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you? Don't come to me. I go, no, dummy. I'm before you. I'm 30 years of Nigerian before you. I got the N-word before you. I got all that before you, boy. Talk about
hard R and
hard R,
and I use Barack Obama because I think that's one that many people they hold very, very sacred in America. I was just like, Barack Obama and I are no different. No different.
He's Kenyan.
Like his first generation. I'm first generation.
But Barack gets skin privilege. You don't get skin privilege.
Whoa.
We were just talking about colorism. So there's skin privilege, there's hair privilege. Barack Obama walks into a room, and this is no shade.
No, I know. This is interesting. Yeah,
he's
safe.
Yeah, he's
It's a safe look.
You both are
Dark skin.
first generation African immigrants, just like President Obama.
Yeah.
You don't get, if you both walked into a room in basketball shorts, you would not get the same reception. And so it's not just simply about you.
But amongst our own people?
Absolutely. I just told you 77% of women in Nigeria use skin bleaching cream. This is real into our DNA, into our bones. And so, yes, President Barack Obama he is in fact a first generation African immigrant. His dad was from the continent of Africa.
Yeah. Just like my dad.
But because he has skin privilege, he gets a pass. I was in Florida. We were in Florida, me and my buddies, and I overheard somebody look at this girl who he thought was unattractive, and she just happened to be light skinned. We heard this dude say, "Damn, that's a waste of light skin." Think about that for a minute.
Because all light skin is always
because light skin has been presented to us as the model of beauty. When you look at all the magazines and even Asian Americans, when you look at Asian American magazines, all the women are very, very fair skinned.
Yeah.
When you look across the Asian diaspora, Asian Americans who are usually more melanated than other Asian Americans, you see differences in the money that they make. So Japanese, Chinese, and Korean Americans, they're having a very different experience than Cambodian Americans and Vietnamese Americans. Because it's largely due to the melanation. So we're talking about colorism here. Yes, you and Barack Obama may have the exact same lineage, but because you don't carry skin privilege, you're not going to get the same reception as him. You could speak the exact same intonation as him. It don't matter.
Well, I think now.
I didn't know.
Well, hold on now. I think now that I speak like Barack Obama, maybe you and all the other haters will accept me finally as a black man that I am. Thank you, everybody.
That was actually
Thank you. See, that wasn't bad. That's what I'm talking about.
That wasn't bad.
Here we go.
That wasn't bad. That was You still dark though.
You're still black. You'll never get it. Sorry about that. It was so bad. That was so terrible. You were so confident. I saw you. You're a piece of Obama, you've ruined the country. I'm here to save it. I'm here to save it.
There were even black Americans saying Barack Obama wasn't black enough to be black. I mean, that was a conversation.
Do we blame Jesse Jackson? Do we also blame Jesse Jackson for coining African American? He was part of that.
I think African
Shout out to
Americans still
Jesse.
important. Rest in peace. Rest in peace.
Jesse
Rest in peace.
Jackson.
I still think I used, when I did academic writing, I would only write African American because I thought Black was not formal enough in writing. And so if you read my writings from 15 years ago, it would usually say African American, until I had people tell me, you're leaving out a whole group of people when you say African American, because growing up in Buffalo, it was just the term you used to incorporate everybody, no matter who they were.
Right. So
Until somebody else told me, well, I don't feel seen in the title African American. And I was like, you're right, because you are a Jamaican American, you're a Haitian American, and it doesn't capture the diaspora even on this land. So I only use Black academically now, unless I'm speaking specifically about the African American experience.
So here's a twist, because
we all experience the same.
Right. Because there's a couple of things here. One, my father-in-law, Black American, or they would say FBA, whatever the term is, right? And
with your light-skinned wife.
Oh, dang.
Right.
You said it.
Dang.
Yeah.
Light-skinned wife.
He said it.
Yeah, sorry, everybody. My father-in-law's Black. All right. So,
they wanted to know.
Yeah, right. They wanted to know. But, for him, he actually doesn't like that, because he's a lot older, and he's like, that's not what we were called he says, in fact, when we were called Black, it was considered negative.
That's right.
And so he
They were colored, right? They were colored.
Yeah, he cringes at that.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the term that he was called that was considered accepted was
Negro?
Negro.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah,
Negro.
Negro. Yeah, Negro.
And I told him, when he said that to me, and I was going, I don't think I can say that. I don't think I can describe you as. So there is this thing, but it's like, that's an entire generation way before me.
Absolutely.
Like, and so here he is in his 80s. And so I guess the question is like, what is that? Because it changes, right? So went from Negro to then Black to then African American,
Colored,
and then colored, and then now we've got this new thing since 2019, FBA, that is starting to get this steam. And I'm going, wait, this is just all this is starting to get fractured.
It's all nomenclature. I think about some of the South African artists right now coming up, and people can't think of the young lady's name, but she identifies as colored.
Tyler.
Because when you're in Cape Town and you're in Johannesburg, that is a remnant of apartheid that still exists today. Yes. And even though when I hear color, like we just talking about NAACP, I like change it, because I still get triggered. I have a reaction when I hear the word colored. And so the nomenclature is simply the nomenclature. Yeah. And more often than not, the people outside of the group being named are those who are naming the group. And so we can't consistently rely upon, who are we called? What are we called? When I was growing up, my mom had a framed picture over the fireplace that said, Black is beautiful. Yeah. And, when you think about the fact that my mom and dad's generation, somebody had to literally tell them, you are beautiful. There had to be a whole movement to tell Black folk that they were beautiful. That Black means
like, say it loud.
Say it loud. Like, you got to say it loud. Like, that wasn't just a song. Right. That was an effort to reverse all the messages that these people got. Like, they weren't just making up songs, man. They were literally saying,
no doubt,
it is being inbred into you that you are nothing.
And this is why my elementary principle, until you just said that right now, and I mean, I knew it, when you're young, your perception again is different, but my elementary principle would have us like, hey, Black child, do you know who you are? Do you know who you really are? Do you know that you can be what you want to be if you try hard to be all that you can be? I made my daughters memorize that, my kids memorize that. Because it does, like, you say it over every single day we stepped out, Dublin Elementary, campus, we had to recite that every single day.
Because your teacher knew when you exited that building, every message you got was the antithesis of that.
You have to, all those songs, there's so many songs from the 60s. Children of the Ghetto and this Black and
you had to say it out loud.
Gifted in Black, Nina Simone and Gifted in Black.
Yeah. And not only are you Black, you gifted. Like,
right. People think, like, when they say, yo, Godfrey, you're pro-Black. My mother was like, you hate white people. I go, you got it all twisted. Pro-white is hating.
That's right.
Pro-white is hating, because why are you saying pro-white when you're at the top? Makes no sense.
Yeah.
Like, when people say brown power, that means they're oppressed.
That's right.
And they're just trying to find get their head above the water and just feel proud of themselves.
That's right.
But no one's hating you. I mean, I don't like what you do to us, and it happens to be you doing it to us.
Yeah.
But pro-blackness is just being proud of who you are. That's all it is. It's just
that's telling you shouldn't.
you shouldn't be. And it's like everyone's mad because you go, oh, there goes that black.
But here's the difference. When you say, like you just said, pro-white is the weirdness of pro-white is that it is a kind of double entendre. It's saying that we have to say this out loud in spite of all the messages around us demonstrating that white is consistently right, that white is the standard. And so if an individual needed to say out loud, that speaks something else. It's kind of like if men were to throw a male power march.
It makes no
It makes no sense.
Makes no sense.
Male privilege dominates everything we do. When you think about, I saw this TED talk on architecture once, and they talked about the architecture of sports stadiums. And when you go to a concert, how the line for the women's bathroom is all the way out the arena, but the line for the men's bathroom is not. They say it's because all those architects are men, and there is a way to do that such that that wouldn't happen. And so if you are the curator of the space by which everything is defined as normal, to speak power to that is a demonstration of something that's not really true and something that's different than what people who are marginalized are looking to do.
And I acknowledge too that when you said that, because sometimes what I like to do, like I feel deeply. And when you just said that about the restroom, because I was at the Super Bowl with my son.
Oh, I was at the Super Bowl with my son. I was at the Super Bowl. Some of us couldn't go to the Super Bowl.
Did you go to the game?
Yeah, I did. I took my son.
On the field, we were.
No, I didn't do that.
50-yard line tickets.
But
go Bills.
Sorry, I
Go
know
Bears.
listen to a football talk.
Here we go.
Go Raiders.
Go Bears.
Go Raiders.
Go Bears.
Have you ever heard of Josh Allen? Oh, thank you. Anyways, you were saying
he gonna be like Jim Kelly though. He might be like Jim Kelly in the Super Bowl. Just can't get one.
Oh wow!
Just can't
my bad.
get one.
See, here we
Hey
go.
Jim, I didn't say any of that.
And the
That
Bills were
wasn't
named
me.
after Wild Bill Cody.
Oh, see now you
Buffalo Bill, right? The Buffalo Bill is named after a white cowboy. Ain't that a?
No, but
The first resident of Buffalo was Joe Black, the fur trader.
Yes.
The
Black. That's why Buffalo is 38% black, because it was one of the last stops on the Underground Railroad right before you got to Canada.
And right to Canada, right there. There's Ontario.
Yeah, my great grandpa was like the Harriet Tubman of his family. He went back and got all of his cousins.
Have you
and
been?
brought
Have you ever been to that area?
I was in Buffalo, and then I just recently went to a game for the first time as a fan to go into the stadium. I was like, yo, this is wow. I got to. It was a lot of love there. I was like, I get this whole Bills Mafia. And it was snowing. It was against the Niners. I mean, it was like, crazy snow.
Yeah, it was nuts.
We are a different group of fans.
I was in Buffalo last week. I did helium in Buffalo. I was there.
My whole family's still there.
I've been there many times.
Yeah.
They even have an American Comedy Museum. Guess where? Jamestown, New York.
Oh, really?
Where Lucille Ball was born.
Did not
It's
know that.
about an hour and a half.
I know Jamestown.
Outside of Buffalo.
I know
and when,
Jamestown.
as you go there, American Museum, Comedy Museum, I don't know why it's way the hell out there. I know it's Lucille Ball's hometown, but as you go up, there are Confederate flags.
Absolutely.
Confederate flags as you're going to this Jamestown.
How did I get to South Carolina? Yeah. Anywhere between Buffalo and Syracuse?
It's
all
like
that.
racist. It's like, right by Canada.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Insane.
I derailed us on football.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's right. You know, football be like, don't talk about the Bill now. We almost got Josh Allen.
I don't know. Anyway, so we've got this.
Yes, son.
This is one of the comments in here, and I think it's worth repeating just to be able to have the conversation. But he goes, "Here's my issue with immigrants poking their chest out, especially Nigerians." Whoa.
It's always us.
Direct shot.
Yeah, you so hardworking, strong, and proud, but you ran away and never looked back. A whole contradiction. And you think about that. And
That was one of your.
Yeah, this is one of
your bots.
I decided not to read some of
I'm glad you're showing. No. I just because he likes to. What the? Damn it!
No, because you know what? To me,
From a Xerox all this. Bring it to the off. Damn it!
To me, it was an opportunity to kind of get a pulse
No,
on
yeah,
where
yeah.
the conversation
Yeah.
is and how people. And what I did, like I went in through the thing and see, okay, a lot of these were generated by bots on Black History Month.
Yeah.
This all went off on Black History
of
Month
course.
to create the division.
Yes.
But then what I started to do is I was like, okay, these are bots. Oh, this is a real person. How does this person think?
Yeah.
As we're sifting through and thinking, like, how do we have a deeper and more elevated
Yeah.
conversation around this? And to me, it's like when you look at Nigeria, you look at some of the other countries, again, going all the way back to colonization, where it were just a bunch of kingdoms, and now you've created this big separation. You've burned their infrastructure. You've forced them to take a government system that is not yours. You've empowered those very few people to be in power. Anybody who tries to buck the system will get taken out. We know Murtala Muhammad. Yeah. Oh yeah, there you go. Or Murtala Muhammad is named the airport in Lagos, Nigeria you fly into. Wanted to end corruption, taken out. And all they have to do is go, we'll find broken people here, we'll feed them with money, we'll feed them with guns, go take this person who's trying to end it out. So I answer that question in saying the system doesn't want, the system that is built and for the leaders who want to end that type of corruption, those people are taken out. And this is why in Burkina Faso, like, fears for his life. It's like, yo, like, I got to set myself up to make sure I can complete the mission.
And he has a reason to be afraid, because the price of black global unification is the demolishment. I don't even think that's a word. Is the demolishing of colonialism.
Yeah.
That is colonialism's biggest threat.
Yes.
Is if we got this Pan-African group together.
United States of Africa.
A chapter in Atlanta, a chapter in Oakland, a chapter in Kingston, a chapter in Paris, London, Accra, Lagos, Johannesburg. That is the death.
Right. Yeah.
That is the death, or I mean, it's not. That is the start of the death of this system.
Yeah.
That's the start of it.
Yeah. Well, I want to give you an opportunity, because you've written several books, and just to kind of talk about your books and kind of where people can find it, and just kind of, these books and the impact and why they're powerful.
Yeah, so I won't talk about all of them.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I brought there's some copies over there for you guys. And so my books are available where you buy books, but the reason that I became a writer is because understanding the psychology of white supremacy is really important. And my most recent book is, the second and most recent book is a book called White on White Crime. And it's called White on White Crime, Old Lies in Contemporary Times. And the reason that it's titled that is because it's an intergenerational study on white supremacy. It demonstrates why this particular construct is so important to maintain across time. And the challenge is that we don't oftentimes pay attention to the fact that whiteness has been commodified to a degree where it warrants protection. Meaning that if it was a commodity traded on the S&P, it would be one of the most valuable commodities. What devalues whiteness is the focus on people of color and multiculturalism. And that begins to drop that down. People have a misunderstanding of the maintenance of the systems that have gone into deliberate play to maintain this. And that's why I write. I'm not the guy who's always going to be out at the march. I'm like, I'll make a video about it, I'll write about it, because that is where I find my lane to be, which is why I'm so grateful that you all invited me here, because not to be arrogant, but I know I have some information that helps unpack this conversation in a way that maybe some others wouldn't. And so when you're thinking about actually solving problems, it's important to have the information there. If you look at all of the Oscar winners for Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor and Best Actress and Best Supporting Actress, what you'll find is over 85% of those awards have gone to individuals that were portraying a stereotyped role. They were maids, they were athletes, they were slaves, they were magical, I don't know if you guys remember the magical Negro.
Yes.
For those listening who don't know what that is, It's a character written into a book or into a movie or film where that character is black and their only purpose to be alive is to help the white protagonist reach their goals. So if you think Sidney Poitier in Lilies of the Valley, Lilies of the Field, he just pops up.
And this nurse, all these nuns helped them build this town. Yeah. He just disappears. You don't know what he loves. You don't know what he cares about. And that's not anything against Sidney Poitier. That is speaking to the narratives that are deliberately sent out. Denzel has played 1,000 different amazing characters, but he's awarded for playing an enslaved man and playing a dirty cop. Now, we don't have a problem with these roles.
Should have been Malcolm X.
It should have been Hurricane, Malcolm X.
Yep.
And several others that we can name.
He should have about 5 or 6.
And so when you think about even, Halle Berry, Monique, all those rapes, they were for
sexually
drug moms, welfare moms. And so I'm saying all this to say that the effort to maintain the ideology of white superiority is long-standing. And unfortunately, we have all been conditioned to be complicit in it, meaning that when we tell a young black boy growing up in the projects, you talk white, that's a part of the plan that was placed onto us that we are now self-propelling forward. And so the reason I write what I write, I got a children's book that talks about American history through the lens of a black family on a trip. And so for me, it's all about how do you get the knowledge out to an accessible group of people such that you can change the conversation that they're having.
Because without the knowledge, you can't make the change.
No, there's a really good book I read in college. It was Donald Bogle. It's Mammies, Coons, Bucks, Mulattoes, the history of black archetypes in film. And it's so good because you got the tragic mulatto, you have the Halle Berrys, the Dorothy Dandridge.
Absolutely.
You have Lena Horne. Then you have the Bucks, which you have the strong Woody Strode. You got the City Points. You got the Bucks. Then you have the Uncle Remuses, which would be the
Sage.
It would be the Freeman, Morgan Freeman, the Samuel Jackson, non-sexual. You're not worried about them taking your woman.
How many times has Morgan Freeman played Jesus?
God, right.
That's what I'm saying.
It's always the old man, the uncle. We call that the Uncle Remus. Then there's the coons. There's the coons. You got a lot of the coons. So, and it's always the same. It's the same archetypes.
It's purposeful.
It's
no
deliberate.
And so again, I think there've only been 25 awards given to black folk for both those categories, both men and women. And if you were to look at every one of them, and again, I'm not saying that we cancel the movies or don't see them. I mean, Officer and a Gentleman is a great movie, but Louis Gossett Jr. was awarded for being a hyper-masculine, angry, scary black dude.
Don't you eye me, boy.
And so I'm not suggesting that anything is wrong with those roles. I'm just saying if these are the images that we celebrate the highest, why are we confused when people see us in that way?
Is it the same thing in the music industry as well? Like,
absolutely.
When we think about our music and what it conveys. Like,
absolutely.
Because I had one person tell me, it was like, well, you don't sound like the music that I hear. You don't sound like the what?
It's all there.
What does that mean? Like
the rapper, the young lady, she was on the show to bring rappers up. She was originally named Miss Mulatto. She goes by Lotto now.
Lotto. Wow. Not the rapper.
Yeah. The rapper Lotto. Her original name was Miss Mulatto. And in my mind, I was like, she's not old enough to understand
what the term is.
What the term means, that she, because I think she is actually biracial.
Half mule, no?
That she was using that. And then I guess her publicist or somebody said, you need to move from that. And so that's how her name became Lotto. And so when you talk about music and we're thinking about this younger generation, this absence, this gap in historical context is certainly creating a problem. Now, if you want to take it way back, we also understand that music was deliberately financed and funded to support a lot of negative images that we see, and those were given dollars. And I'm not suggesting that Common is better than Eazy-E or Talib Kweli is better than Dr. Dre, but what I know for sure is that those voices were silenced in an effort to highlight this. Now, should gangster rap have never been made? No, absolutely it should have. Those narratives coming out of these cities needed to be told. All in black boys and girls in those communities needed to be seen. The problem was the machine elevated
machine.
that narrative
over
in a
everything
different
else.
way. And so Hollywood and the music industry, they're like the admin of the group chat. They decide which ones stay pinned, which conversations stay pinned at the top. And we have to do a better job of discerning that we're getting all those messages. How do you find the movie that's not showing just the black stereotype? That's why Issa Rae's original Awkward Black Girl made so many waves when it came out because black girls didn't get a visual of what she was showing them. A girl who was urban from the hood, but had all these different things going on. They never had their story told.
And
it was Atlanta with Dom. But
yes.
It was Atlanta. He's a nerd that lives in the hood. But
Absolutely.
That's
There's so many nerds in the hood. There's so many.
I was a hood nerd.
You know how many people I knew? Black comic book collectors. I knew most of my friends that are black comic will bury motherfuckers in comic book knowledge. I have a buddy named Scout. I go, anybody that reads comics, come challenge my buddy Scout. He will destroy.
I remember the first brother who told me that they played Dungeons and Dragons. I was like, excuse me.
Yeah, but there's so many of us that do it, dude. I'm going to BlurredCon. I'm going to BlurredCon. I'm going to BlurredCon, which is Black Nerd Convention. I'm about to go there.
You know what this made me think of? It made me think of one of my old teammates. And one of my old teammates who I played with in college also went on to play in the NFL for a very long time. I'm talking about this dude was smart as hell. I mean, I think he was the smartest dude in the university. You could have, from math to history to anything. He knew it all. I'm like, damn, how'd you learn all of this stuff? And because we lived together for a little bit, he would hide it from all of his teammates because he didn't want anyone to know that he was smart. Because he would lose his quote unquote black card. It wasn't celebrated. And I'm like, I thought it was the weirdest thing. He was like, man, don't tell nobody that.
Don't tell anybody that I'm smart.
Like literally Tank him like, I don't even need to go to class. But he was so smart he could do it by himself. Like, and then
I was a public school teacher for years. When you have a bachelor's degree in biology in the 90s and you don't want to go to medical school, there's nothing you can do besides teach middle school science. So I'm teaching in Baltimore and I'm in my early 20s, and I would give my science, when they take tests, I would give them back the first 5 tests in order of who got the highest grade. Nobody would know who got the lowest grade because there's 30 kids in the class. I just wanted to like elevate the people who got the highest grades in the class. So one of these cats, always in the top 5, suddenly no longer in the top 5.
oh shit.
I say, yo, Marcus, I said, something's wrong. Like, he's like, yeah, they were clowning me because I was always getting the top tests.
Insane.
And so he deliberately started doing worse on the test in order not to get one of the
be in the top 5.
Because his blackness was being questioned.
Yes.
Now, I got an email from this, so this is 1999, 2000 maybe. I get an email from this brother in like maybe 10 years ago. He's now an acoustic engineer. I didn't even know what this job was. He's an acoustic engineer in Washington, D.C. And he emailed me, found my email, and he emailed me to thank me for explaining to him that his intelligent black self was just as black as anybody else. Right. I did stop putting the papers in order like that because it never occurred to me that that would be an outcome of me doing that. But literally, it was clear as day, first 3 tests, this young brother's in the top 5 every time. And then suddenly you're not?
No.
That's a deliberate effort. When you think about what Octavia Butler did, she's right from Pasadena. She was one of the first black women science fiction writers. She said black people need to see themselves in the future, in sci-fi. That's how we came up with Afrofuturism. If you think about, I don't know how old you are, but if you think about our childhood cartoons, 2 of my favorites, the Flintstones and the Jetsons.
Same group, Hanna-Barbera.
Yes. And so what did I learn from that? Donald, your blackness was not included in the past, and your blackness is not included in the future because in both of those cartoons, there were no black people.
At all.
0.
None.
And so when you think about the levels and the depths and the deliberateness with which the messages that we currently own have been curated for us to hold on to,
Of course that would happen.
Of course, this is all predictable.
So this is why the same teammate, when he got A's, you know how he got out of it? He go, oh, I cheated. He would just tell everybody, oh, I cheated. And
I
he
would
didn't
rather
cheat.
be a liar and a cheater than smart. That is bananas.
It's real.
It's real.
Remember Nichelle Nichols, who played Uhuru on Star Trek?
Yes, yes.
She was going through it with Gene Roddenberry. She was like, I'm with the racism. She was like, I want to leave the show.
Yes.
So she was at a party and Dr. King was there.
MLK.
And Dr. King said, I don't know if Dr. King was dancing. Let me tell you something.
He wasn't
I
dancing.
think
He
that
wasn't
you need to go back on that show.
Yeah.
But he came and said, you need to stay on the show.
That's right.
Black people need to be seen in futuristic
He
stuff.
said it was the only show he let his kids watch.
That's right. To see this black
To
woman.
see her.
Because my mother would watch, parents would watch Star Trek. You'd be like, yo, there's a black lady on there.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
And he made her go back.
I never walk up to celebrities. I met her at
Oh wow, you got to meet her.
at a restaurant. We were at, I'm trying to think of the restaurant, with that regular restaurant that everybody goes to in Beverly Hills on, anyways, we were there and she was there. We were sitting outside and I walked up to her. I said, I know you get this all the time. And I said, you have done an amazing set of work for America. And I'm not even a Trekkie, but I know the impact and the influence that that visualization shows. I know what it means for my 16-year-old son to never grow up in a world where there has never been a black president. That can never be changed. From his entire lifetime, there's always been a president who has been black.
Yeah.
Isn't that great?
I was in my 30s before that happened. Did I know conceptually that could happen? Of course I did.
Because the power of media and music, it is so powerful.
It's huge.
You took me back to, I remember my 6th grade graduation, the best gift I could get ever, and it was unintentional. I graduated from Dublin Elementary. My dad takes us to Marie Callender, which was like a big deal because usually, we'd only go to Sizzlers. So to go to Marie Callender was like, oh my goodness, we're going to Marie Callender's.
Yeah.
And sits right in front of me. It's the first black mama I ever knew on TV, Esther Roll.
Love it.
Esther Roll was like that, and I still never forget it. She goes, baby, boy, you got me looking like the devil himself. Come here, come take this picture. And I sat there and she was like, congratulations, gave me $20, like $20 in 1991.
Right.
I was like, I was so stuck that I was talking to her. I mean,
Esther Roll.
Yeah.
You know what Esther Roll did?
Yeah, brought in the black father.
They wanted to make Good Times the whole show with no dad. She was like, I will not do this show unless you give me a husband for my kids. She refused.
And then he ended up getting fired after he said John Amos.
John Amos,
I was able to know before he passed.
Rest in peace, yeah.
And he was like, I said, hey, the JJ character is a little too buffoonish. This is not the purpose of the show. And then they said, hey, you're not going to be on the next season because he questioned these white men.
So this is another really important point. I have some really good friends in the industry, and I was at a house party talking to Chi McBride.
Chi McBride from Chicago.
Chi played years ago, but before he was famous for Boston Public and all of his other great work, he played an enslaved man in The Diary of Herman Pfeiffer, which was a sitcom about a man on a plantation. I got to ask him, I said, tell me more about, even though the show was before its time because he was the smartest man there, it was kind of like Benson on a plantation.
Great role.
And I got to ask him, I said, why would you do that? Why would you play that role? I said, because it was kind of like, I'll share my thoughts about the Dave Chappelle show in a minute, but it was kind of like this idea that it was smarter than everybody else was at the time and nobody would really get it. And so it would only be seen as you were being laughed at and not with. And he just began to talk about him being a young actor in LA, and the only roles that were out there were those. There were no writers for us. And so even when we're talking about Amos and Andy, one of the first shows to show black people on TV, those were white voices acting on that when it was a radio show, and they just continued to write in this pejorative nature. And so, when you think about back in the 80s when Chai was doing that, and then you had Homeboys in Outer Space.
Homeboys in Outer Space.
You had all this
with
weird
Flex
stuff.
and Mel
and Ron, Ron from A Different World, I think.
Oh yeah, Bell.
Yeah,
Ronnie Bell.
Ron Bell.
Yeah.
And so when you think about that time, this is what they were writing for us, literally to send the message of who you were. So JJ was a deliberate tool to maintain systemic oppression, and he wasn't with it. He said no, and he got fired for standing up. John Amos did. And as a result, that's the lesson. You step outside of your box. I'm snatching your stuff. I'm snatching it away. You say something out of line.
Well, that's why a lot of, considering what I do, as I guess I'm considered one of the most underrated comedians in the biz, because I was always that dude to talk about.
Yeah. Do you feel like you're blackballed?
I don't know about blackballed. I thought I was, but not blackballed, but just like, cause I was doing stuff. I was getting on stuff. But I know guys that I know that were on major shows. Yeah. And they would be like, it was always, a lot of times it was a physical thing. Oh, I would get this and this. I don't lie about my.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I would go on auditions. They'll go, well, good looking guy. He might be too good looking for the part because the main guy's white and we don't want him to take away from the white lead.
That's real.
I can't make this shit up,
That's
bro.
real.
So I'm not working because I look like this. It's not bragging.
I'm too handsome to work.
No, but that's what I'm saying. And I'm not saying that.
I know you're not. I know you're
so
not.
they'll rather get, he's a fat black dude or something like crazy looking. That's the look they want.
Yeah.
You can't, because a white guy can be fat, good looking, all kinds. But if we dare be, we don't want women to want this guy.
Yeah.
We can't have him
That's
get
right.
fans.
That's
We
right.
gotta, it's like, there's a really famous, there's a video of Little Richard, Bo Diddley, and Chuck Berry. They're all talking. And he goes, man, back in the day, they for black artists, it was hard for us. He goes, and Little Richard goes, cause you black. Because you black. They didn't want no big black man twirling like that. That's why they had Elvis do it. They let the white boy do the stuff black boys was doing. You was black. They didn't want them white women loving them black. He kept it 100.
That's right.
And it's the same thing in
Little Richard was in it?
Little Richard is the king of rock and roll. His
He
documentary,
taught all of them.
he is the king of rock and roll.
He would take them on the road.
He helped out Rolling Stones. He helped out Jimi Hendrix. Played for him. He's telling the truth. Like the documentary, his new one that came out 2 years ago.
It's clear.
It's phenomenal. He is the king of rock and roll. That's facts.
He has lots of receipts.
And he goes, because you was black. That's why they let Elvis do it. Elvis was just copying what black dudes did.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so it's the
that
same.
was in his movie too. They put
It's the
that
same
out
thing in acting. Like when because they got to choose the black dude they want. I've been told crazy. I remember going out for New York. Remember NYPD Blue?
Yes.
And I went out for a guy that shot a cop. So I was like, this is an easy one. He hated cops. So being in Chicago, being harassed by cops, boom. I just used that as a tool in acting. You use certain experiences. And so I did well. I got called back again. They said, man, I was really good. Get called back again. I'm like, man, I might get this. They're saying, hey, can we make them uglier? They literally, this is ABC. The casting director is one of my friends. She goes, they want to she go, what are they talking about? Make them uglier.
Yeah.
Because I was like, guys that look like me can hate cops.
Well, remember,
why does it have to be there has to be this black image? I go, I can just hate cops.
It's literally all in one tick box that goes outside of the line requires an overcorrection. Meaning that if there is any instance where this black guy is going to make any white woman excited, we have to shut that down. If there's any way that this black guy is going to make any body feel threatened, we're going to have to shut this down. If it's any black guy who makes anybody else feel less than, we have to shut this down. I mean, Will Smith, in his prime as an actor, he was able to benefit from skin privilege and kind privilege, and he made white people feel very at ease. And I'm not suggesting that he did anything purposely to
but he was
do
very
that, but he was very vanilla.
Neutralizing, yeah.
And so you didn't see Will Smith even though obviously the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was very black, I'm not questioning his blackness at all. I'm suggesting though that he wasn't KRS-One, and he got opportunities as a result of really walking that line, as many of us have to do. I have Fortune 100 clients. I can't just be on social media popping off at the mouth.
No, you can't.
I have to be thoughtful about the way I express my blackness in order to maintain these contracts, which some of them I've lost because of some of the drama.
White on white.
White on white crime, right? My wife was like, "You really gonna name it that? You ain't gonna get no jobs." I'm like, "Well, I'm being honest about what this is."
Well, like you said, I don't do what I do to like never eat. I want to eat.
Right.
But there's got to be, everybody isn't built to just be like, dun, 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 dun. Everybody's not, I'm not built to not say anything.
That's right.
Some people everybody does their stuff differently. As long as we, and that's another thing, we shouldn't be a monolith on how we protest.
That's right.
It shouldn't be, I'll say no. Akbar is going to do it in his way.
Yeah.
You're going to do it in your way.
Right.
I do it in my way.
That's right.
And I learn from him.
Yeah.
And he learns from me. He learns from me. I learn from him and go, you know what? I don't need to do it. I'll do it like he did it.
Yeah.
I'll find a different way.
As long as we're doing it.
As long as we're
doing it together.
Doing it together.
Yes. Doing it
Everybody
together.
can't be on a soapbox. There's some people that are built for that, speaking, being on the boots on the ground. I know white dudes, my boy Jolly Ginger. Shout out to Jolly Ginger, who's an activist, white dude. Red hair is my dude. He goes out and he calls people out. He's on the street. He's built for that.
That's right.
And there's some people that write. It's
not my skill set. I'm not good.
That's not my skill set is to be on stage. I push the envelope. He's seen me. He's seen me on stage. I get down.
Yeah.
But that's how I'm built.
Right.
But it doesn't come from a place of hate. It comes from, I just want you all to understand. But my crowds are multicultural.
Yeah.
And they go, I get what the hell.
And you know what? Because what I love about
that's how you're winning.
That's how I'm winning.
That's how you're winning.
Yeah, what I
because you're
love
able to maintain your shape. So many of us are compelled to change our shape to go into different containers.
Yeah, and it depends on who you are, because based on how you're wired, some people are wired to make that change. I know in my earlier years, you would want something like, what happened, and this thing was like, oh shoot, I better conform. But then you go, I am who I am, right? You get to that certain page where you go, I am who I am.
Yeah.
God built me in a certain way, in the way I am designed, just as we are all unique, like we all have our own different fingerprints. None of us have the same fingerprint. That's the same thing with our culture. We all have different patterns in the way we operate.
Someone's going to always dislike you. Sorry.
Absolutely.
Someone's going to always dislike you.
Every time.
This is what they say, Cosby actually say if you try to do comedy to get everyone to like you, you might as well quit. It's impossible. I kill. Like when I do my shows, I kill, but there's some people that are like, but you can't worry about that. That's okay for them not to like you.
Absolutely.
You can't like everybody. You can't like every song. You can't.
Nor should you.
Right. Look, Trump is the epitome of who he don't give who don't like him. He is the epitome, but someone likes him.
Yeah.
Somebody is like, yeah, and he's like, you're a piece of shit. You're right. Someone's like, hell yeah. Someone's gonna dig you.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So you gotta be yourself. You gotta be who you are. You're gonna be Akbar. It's it. You can change a little bit. I'm Akbar. It's me.
Grow, but to change just to fit one person's view,
it's
only to look back and go, well, somebody else don't like you over.
It's like you got to be who you are.
But that comes with maturity. Like
no doubt.
What we're talking about is this concept of self-actualization. That's what you call it in psychology. When you get to a space when you get to a space across your lifespan of development, and you are able to say, this is the shape that I'm in. And that doesn't mean you don't kind of shift a little bit. Like when my son hears me on a board call, and then he hears me on a call with my boys, when he was younger, I remember when he was 8 years old, he was like, Daddy, you don't talk like you do on your call with your friends that you doing. He's like 6 or 7 years old.
Well, that's how I got you your extras. Why don't you shut your damn mouth? You got all the best electronic games because of that.
How do you think I pay that?
My boys don't pay
tuition,
that.
sir?
He goes, how do you think you got your new sneakers, dummy?
We talk about this. He and I talk about this all the time. I said Trevor Noah talked about it best, man.
Trevor Noah is Trevor's a genius at this.
Yeah, I would love to have Trevor Noah on the show because he talks about this and breaks it down in his book. And he just talks about it's a level of intelligence that you can utilize it to be able to adapt in certain things. Some people, oh man, you got to keep it real, keep it real. No, you're still who you are, right? Yeah. But no difference than when I was in Japan for the Olympics, working the Olympics.
You got to talk a certain way.
I was doing like this, like I was doing this, or I was in Thailand, and everybody was going Sawadee couple cop, or Sawadee.
Yeah, you did that song.
And then all of a sudden, I came back home, and I was just like, hi, babe.
Oh no!
She's like, why are you Drake? Oh, I'm sorry. I was like, Saudi crowd.
When I got back from Beijing, I was like, shishir.
Shishir. That's just acclimating to the culture.
It's how it's supposed to work. And so the problem is, the challenge is, we see it in adolescents primarily, and in people who have histories of abuse.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, we don't build the skill set, the physical skill set, to be able to maintain our own shape in different environments, because the incentive to shape shift is always so real for somebody who has not reached self-actualization. And so if the threat is that you are not going to be included, you have to do something to separate yourself. Otherwise, it feels literally like you could die for some people. Yeah. And that's why you see all these cats out here with all these different identities. You say, oh, you know Roger? And then you say something like, that's not the Roger I know, but it's the same cat, because there's somebody different in every single setting. Yeah. We may speak differently, we may speak louder or softer, or use words that we don't use in certain crowds, but our center remains our center.
Yeah.
And that takes critical thinking that says, I'm gonna pull this valence of white supremacy off of me. I'm not gonna allow toxic masculinity to define how I interact with my son. I get my son a Valentine's Day card every Valentine's Day.
That's awesome.
This year, we got him a book with 12 pages where we had to write in it different messages. It had different prompts, and me and my wife filled out all the pages.
Awesome.
Because I know that little black boys are up on throughout their entire development. Right. And so I said, while he's still in my house, he is not going to question the fact that even though the world tells him all this stuff about him, this is a place of refuge. This is a safe place of love, of unconditional love. And I'm going to let you know every time, because I know once you are released from my care, the messages that you get about yourself, I don't want them to be the ones that define your shape.
You know,
I want your shape.
I am going to steal that from you. I think
that's awesome. Do you know Jawanji Kunjufu?
Yeah.
He just passed away. Chicago educator.
Yes.
I had his books, Countering the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys.
He created the theory of disidentification that says that black boys disidentify with academia at grade 4 because they begin to get messages about who they are.
Right.
And so what happens is as a child, your identity is connected to your academia because that's your primary identity. He said that at 4th grade, black boys begin to separate their identity from academia because it's so injurious. They were in there just getting stabbed and shot, not literally, but everything about academia at that time where he was writing those works, still very similar in some cases, was injuring boys, and they observed it. It was clear.
And it was clear as day. Always a white woman teacher. Because I remember like 4th, 5th grade, I had these white women teachers. A lot of white women teachers. Yeah. I had some black ones here and there, but the white women teachers, and it would always be.
Oh, wow.
And remember they did that experiment that, they're watching the the students, this white kids, and all the teachers were paying attention to the black.
I saw that on 60 Minutes. Yeah.
They were paying attention. Oh, here's another one that they never show again. I think they're showing parts of it. That's what I love about YouTube. They always show stuff that you can't find.
Oh, yeah.
There was Anderson Cooper had a thing about race on CNN. They never showed that shit again. And he had
the doll test?
Not the doll test. It was not even the Jane Elliott test with the blue eyes, brown eyes. Yeah. It was he had these scenarios, and he had 3 to 5 year olds against 12, 13-year-olds. So there's a picture of a student. He's standing up. The other student's on the ground. Books all over the place. And he tells the little kids, "What do you see in this scenario?" Mm-hmm. He goes, "Oh, his friend fell. And his friend is coming to help him pick up his books." These are the 3 to 5 year olds. They get to the 10, 11 year olds. Yeah, the black guy pushed the white guy and da-da-da. Yep. So it was like, where does racial tension happened.
So
it was
kids
such a
learn, there's a great book called, it's a study on preschoolers called The First Hour of Racism. And it found out that kids begin to learn to behave based on race at age 4, not grade 4, age 4.
Yes.
Meaning that they're kids walking around preschool, maybe not articulating it, but making decisions about who they want to take a nap next to based on skin color.
Where does that come from?
Parents.
Parents and environment.
Parents, sure.
We just heard, you remember at the BAFTAs this year or recently.
BAFTA. We going BAFTA?
So we heard the guy who had autism,
John Davidson,
scream out the N-word.
Yep.
He said.
And so what we know, and I just did a video about this on Instagram, what we know is that Tourette's does create a scenario where that happens. And there's a particular characteristic of Tourette's that literally pulls from some of the most dangerous words that one could say. And the person with Tourette's, their ability to suppress it actually creates a bigger ability that it's going to be said. But here's what people are not talking about. Tourette's syndrome doesn't create words.
Thank you.
That word has to always be in your lexicon.
Thank you.
It has to already be in your dictionary.
It doesn't create race.
It has to be, but it also has to be in your lexicon contextually.
Right.
It wasn't like the word
It's
was just
contextual.
there
He saw
and you
two
didn't know
black
what it
men.
meant. Exactly.
He saw two black men. It's like if there was, let's say there were two women up there and we go,
Yes.
and then, but my thing was this.
And it doesn't mean that he's racist. It just means he knew that word in a racist context and his neurodivergence grabbed it and
said,
spit it out. But we're just saying, oh, he didn't know
But my
what he was
thing is
saying.
not, how about this? I did a video on it. It's at 2 million.
Yeah.
I said, that's not the thing. You all are deflecting. You're not holding yourself accountable. How about apologize to Delroy Lindo?
That's right.
And Michael B. Jordan said, I have this thing. I'm sorry. His apology was trash.
To the Academy.
He was talking about the Academy. I said, apologize, because sometimes white men apologize to a black man. It's like little white boys used to call old black men boy.
That's right.
We didn't have Mr.
That's right.
So there's that. That's what I'm looking at. Everyone's like, they're sending me messages here. You should do this. You should study Tourette's. I go, why don't you study racism, buddy?
Yeah.
I said, I'm not studying a disease.
Yeah.
Okay. There's racism as a disease that you don't want to get rid of. I said, apologize to a statesman, Delroy, who's from London.
Yeah.
You apologize to that man and say, we're sorry to Michael B. Jordan because Sinners is winning. That's another thing you probably pissed off at.
Absolutely.
I said, I'm not falling for the okie doke.
And that's the new convert. So 20 years ago, we would have just let that ride and nobody would have been able. And again, as a psychologist, I knew what was going on, and I knew that he didn't deliberately say that word, but I knew that the tension associated with trying to suppress it made it come out. He needed to not just apologize to Delroy and Michael.
Yes.
We had a diaspora who witnessed an injury that did not have repair.
Yeah.
Yes.
That
Thank you.
is that's what we call complex trauma in some ways. The injury we were forced to watch and then forced to let it pass by and then be told, chill out, you're overreacting.
Right. And here's the other
they
part.
didn't overreact. They let it go.
Yeah, and here's the other part.
They let it ride.
Here's the other
You're
part.
forced to do that all the time.
It made it on the airwaves. Now, I've worked in network television.
That could have easily been censored.
I worked in network television for a very long time.
Yeah.
Like, you've got the
Hiccup.
they call it the
Hiccup
10 second,
Yeah,
the
no
red
doubt.
button, right?
Yeah,
that
no
you
doubt.
can, there's that. Then it makes it 10 hours later, right? There's a time difference in when
There were
so
multiple
there were so many opportunities for that to be cut out, like they cut out other things inside of
The
that.
UK also doesn't feel like they have a race issue. The UK believes that because
insane.
there were not enslaved people on plantations on their land, that it wasn't the same problem. When you look at the economic foundation of what we call the cottage industry in across Europe, that was all grounded in the cotton that was grown here in the United States and sent there to build the cottage industry before the Industrial Revolution happened. When they look at birth records of children, all of their parents from that time frame all worked in the textile industry, which was funded by the cotton that they got for almost free from the enslaved labor. And so that's another part of this larger conversation, is that even though there may not have been enslaved people on plantations on your land, you are still a benefactor as a municipality to what's going on. Not to mention all the money got taken out the continent.
And London, and first British, I mean, I do British comedy. Television is all white.
Yeah.
You barely any black people getting any shows. There's so many black funny.
That's
British,
why all the actors are coming over here.
Yeah, they get nothing. It's
Yeah.
practically white. It's like Canadian television, which is a British Commonwealth.
Yeah.
60%. It's it's all whites.
Stringer Bell was British
Idris
because
Elba.
he couldn't do
But
that
he
over
couldn't do
there.
it. And it's so lopsided.
Yeah.
And okay, I got a
yeah.
acronym for BAFTA.
Okay.
Blacks always forgiven Tourette's again.
You know what?
That's funny.
And now you can fuck off. I'm taking the piss. Don't give.
You just put
And you know it's racism. Yes, blacks always forgiven Tourette's again.
love it.
That's what I'm
I love
saying.
Well, you know what? This was such a powerful conversation.
We gotta have another one again.
Yeah, we got to do this
bring it
again.
back.
I could be your BFA cousin.
Man,
Word. We can do that again.
Appreciate you.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you,
Thank you.
Dr. Dr. Donald Grant, man.
Yes,
Thank you so
sir.
much for your contribution to this
you.
conversation.
Thanks for having me.
And I would just say to everybody else out there that Black Americans, Black immigrants, we're one people. We have, yes, different struggles from different sides of the world, but all together we are united. So, you know, I hope that this discussion really helps to kind of end that. Yeah. And in some way, maybe in our lifetime, like we were able to see and experience a black president like Barack Obama and the contributions for so many other Black Americans that we know about, so many Black immigrants who've made contributions. There is enough to go around everywhere for us to be together, and nothing ever takes away from the idea that the Black Americans who built the foundation and this horrible history in America, that nothing takes away the Black foundation that built this country.
No doubt.
And so this conversation is to be additive.
Yeah.
It's to be able to highlight that we are diverse in the way we are, in the way we think, in the way we are. The black card, gone away. This idea that there is only a monolith of being black should be gone away, because we're so many. Just like we vary in height, in ideas, in skin complexion, we're so many. So we should embrace all of that. So this is
White on white crime. Remember his book?
Yeah.
White on white crime. See, you guys kill each other too.
Dr. Donald Grant, thank you so much for rocking with us on 154.
Yeah!
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Fight the power. Fight the power.
154, we all connected, baby, you already know. I'm talking 154, we bringing Africa around the whole globe. Ain't no place like home. Ain't no place like home. Ain't no place like, ain't no place.